Chapter 8:12. Swoosh! Su-yi swung his sword and the sword radiance was dazzling. With a sharp sound, it collided with the blade that was accompanied by the strange phenomenon. And when Su-yi swung his sword, the elders and experts in Xinjian Gate were surprised. Elder Su Kuanga's eyes also flashed with light. At this sword. In the various mountain sects, many experts were also surprised. They seemed to have felt something, but they were also in disbelief. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, the blade radiance and the sword radiance collided with each other. The violent sound of metal exploding could be heard, and a violent gust of wind surged out from the collision point. Whoosh! In an instant, a gust of wind swept out. The blade radiance was dazzling, the sword radiance was dazzling, and the gust of wind was violent. Zy under everyone's gaze, the strange phenomenon around the blade radiance collapsed inch by inch, and the violent energy swept out. Dang dang! A graceful figure staggered back from the violent energy, and her feet brushed against the ground as she retreated in a straight line. Chen Yanhuan let out a muffled groan, and her face turned pale. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her red lips, and there was shock in her eyes. However, in just an instant, Chen Yanhuan gritted her teeth. At the same time, the golden light in her eyes spread out and became more intense. The aura around her became more and more powerful. She suddenly closed her eyes and then opened them again. Rumble! When Chen Yanhuan opened her eyes again, there were deafening clanging sounds around the golden boulder. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. In an instant, heaven and earth shook, and various strange phenomena erupted. At this moment, in Chen Yanhuan's golden eyes, her pupils were like two golden suns, emitting a terrifying light. Like two golden thunderbolts, they gathered together, and like a golden pillar of light, it directly enveloped Su-yi. The void was roaring, and the golden boulder was also trembling. The golden pillar of light was shocking and extremely dazzling. It contained many mysteries, and mysterious and complex runes flowed around it. The terrifying aura was extremely terrifying. The dazzling light continued to surge toward Su-yi. Rumble, wind and thunder rumbled in the surroundings. Light shot up into the sky, and golden light covered the sky. It was boundless and contained a power that could destroy souls and everything. It was incomparably terrifying and wanted to destroy Su-yi. Oh my God! At this moment, the power that burst out from Chen Yanhuan's eyes made everyone exclaim and tremble. Looking at the golden light from afar, they felt a piercing pain in their souls. It was not hard to imagine what kind of attack the overlord sex Isu, who was enveloped by the golden pillar of light, would face. It's the great sun soul extinguishing pupil. Among the 5 sects and 3 factions, some of the elders and experts were shocked. Great sun soul extinguishing pupil. It really is the great sun soul extinguishing pupil. Some experts were unable to come to the point. The sun soul extinguishing eye is the strongest of the Qian Yang true essence arts, but the requirements for cultivating it are too strict. Only those with innate Yang pupils can cultivate it. It is said that innate Yang pupils are even rarer than those with heaven-grade soul quality. Clear Sky Sect is really lucky this time. Inside Jutian Palace, Vice Palace Master Guanlan was also surprised, his eyes filled with shock. The Sun Soul Extinguishing Eye specializes in suppressing souls and is rumored to be the nemesis of soul controller masters. This time, Isu is in big trouble. Some of the sect's masters whispered. They hadn't expected Clear Sky Sect's Chen Yanhuan to be so powerful. Feeling the terrifying aura Chen Yanhuan was currently exuding, they couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat for Su-yi. In Clear Sky Sect, the elders and masters all had smiles on their faces. This was Chen Yanhuan's true trump card and strength. Once the Sun Soul Extinguishing Eye was used, almost all cultivators in the same realm could be swept away. Even if he encountered a holy son or holy daughter of the holy mountain, he would be able to contend with them. Under the terrifying aura, vision surged, accompanied by flashes of lightning and roars of thunder, shocking the surrounding heavens' prides who were fighting. Sensing the true strength of Chen Yanhuan's trump card, all of them were shocked. Very strong, very strange. Enveloped in a dazzling light, Sui could not help but exclaim in admiration. At this moment, perhaps only Sui understood how terrifying the light in Chen Yanhuan's eyes was. This golden light was terrifying, like a divine light, capable of absorbing and destroying one's soul. Its vast aura and pressure resonated with the world, carrying with it the power of heaven and earth. With such terrifying might, Sui reckoned that not many people of the same cultivation level would be a match for Chen Yanhuan. It was enough to sweep her aside. However, Sui was not afraid. This golden light was capable of absorbing and destroying one's soul. But to Sui this was not enough. Not to mention how powerful Sui's soul was, it was even more perverse than his physical strength. It was just that Sui did not have many opportunities to use his soul. More importantly, Sui's soul was the heavenly origin demon soul. At this moment, the golden light in Chen Yanhuan's golden eyes was incomparably powerful. With a momentum that could destroy everything, it suppressed Sui, vast and mighty, resonating with the world. However, this strange attack only affected Sui for a moment. In Sui's mind, the red soul power seemed to have been provoked, causing huge waves. The heavenly origin demon's soul carried a domineering and majestic aura, directly suppressing and devouring the terrifying power. This should be your last trump card. Let's end this. Sui's eyes were bright red. His expression was calm as he stepped out and stretched out his hand. A palm print condensed, as dazzling as the sun, directly crossing the golden light. Then, as fast as lightning, it landed on Chen Yanhuan's shoulder. Bang! With a muffled sound, the dazzling halo on Chen Yanhuan's body shattered, and the shattered mighty force rose and fell one after another. Puff! Chen Yanhuan vomited blood. Her delicate red lips turned gray in an instant, and she spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Her graceful body was sent flying, crashing upside down a dozen feet away. Chen Yanhuan lost. What a powerful Isu, too domineering and fierce. That's Clear Sky Sect's Great Sun Soul Extinguishing Pupil, which specializes in attacking the soul. He actually remained unmoved. The last move, Isu broke through all techniques with brute force. A pure Yuan Qi attack sent Chen Yanhuan flying. It's too terrifying. As Chen Yanhuan's delicate body was sent flying, countless eyes in the field trembled fiercely. Especially the masters of the 5 sects, 3 factions and other great forces, each of their eyes twitched. How could they not see the strength of the Bawang sect's Isu? The great sun soul extinguishing pupil was not damaged at all. This was too terrifying. The elders of Clear Sky Sect watched as the delicate body fell and vomited blood. Their eyes, which were originally full of hope, suddenly turned into shock and astonishment. Chen Yanhuan had used all her trump cards, yet she was still defeated so miserably. Just how strong was this guy? Chapter 8:13. I didn't mean to hurt you, but you're very strong. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to win, Sui said to Chen Yanhuan. He didn't mean to hurt her, but Chen Yanhuan was indeed very strong. If he didn't use more force, he wouldn't have been able to defeat her. Humph, a defeat is a defeat. This time, it's because I didn't cultivate properly. But next time, it might not be the same. Chen Yanhuan pouted her lip. Her faint golden eyes glared at Sui as she stuffed an elixir into her mouth. After that, her graceful figure wrapped in tight clothes leaped off the golden boulder. Chen Yanhuan didn't have any intention to attack again. At this moment, she was clear about her own situation. Not to mention the injuries on her body, she couldn't fight anymore after using the Great Sun Soul Extinguishing Eye once. Looking at Chen Yanhuan's back, Sui smiled helplessly as he swept his gaze across the surroundings. Roar! A sea of fire filled the air, covering the golden boulder. Qi Tianxuan's enormous flame wolf battle armor stood tall as a huge flame wolf phantasm circled around him. He tightly gripped a trident that was several meters long in his hand. Like flowing magma, it gave off a blazing aura that filled the sky, causing the space around the trident to faintly show signs of dent. Fire God's Battle Halberd. This Qi Tianxian of the Skyblaze sect is also very strong. Qi Tianxian is so powerful. His talent is terrifying. He can actually control the Flaming Wolf battle armor and the Fire God's battle halberd. Qi Tianxian can sweep through anyone in the same cultivation realm. After Su Yi defeated Chen Yanhuan, the countless gazes fell on Naren Ryu and Qi Tianxian. Looking at Qi Tianxuan's current aura, many people were shocked. At this moment, Qi Tianxian had already used all of his trump cards. The huge flaming wolf battle armor emitted a monstrous aura, giving people the impression that the fire god had descended. The fire god's battle halberd in his hand had a huge origin. That's about it. You don't have any other tricks up your sleeves, right? Naren Ryu stepped into the blazing aura, her gaze still calm. Fight. Qi Tianxian attacked with all his might. The fire wolf on the fire wolf armor roared, and its huge body rushed out with an aura that resonated with the world. The halberd in his hand rumbled, and as energy poured into it, it was as if there was a volcano's majestic energy, causing the surrounding space to distort. At this moment, the entire golden boulder was trembling. The blazing aura that filled the sky was incomparably terrifying. It was as if the sun had descended from the sky, causing one's hair to stand on end. Still not enough, Naren Ryu said coldly. She formed a seal with both of her hands. A fist seal condensed and suddenly blasted out. Roar. In front of Naren Ryu's fist, a shadow of a strange beast shot out. Divine aura filled the sky, as if it was going to shatter the earth. Its momentum was terrifying. The strange beast's illusory figure and the former's monstrous hot aura were both extremely terrifying. They instantly cut through the air and collided like meteorites in front of countless shocked gazes. Suddenly, at the instant when the two collided, frightening energy ripples and flames swept out like a storm. A hurricane whistled and set off a monstrous force. Hum! This part of the world also rumbled. The battles on the other golden boulders in the surroundings were all affected. One of the two energies was incomparably divine, while the other was blazing hot. They covered the golden boulders as if they were blotting out the sun. Ordinary people could not see through them with the naked eye. Only the huge illusory figure of the strange beast and the fire wolf's illusory figure would roar from time to time. The golden boulders were all sealed with energy. Otherwise, they would have been blasted to smithereens long ago. In just an instant, the frightening energy had already dissipated. The two figures had already landed on the golden boulders. Naren Ryu was at ease, as if she was unharmed. Qi Tianxuan's huge flaming wolf battle armor stood tall. He seemed unharmed, but the fire wolf's illusory figure on the battle armor had disappeared. Crack crack, but very soon, the flaming wolf battle armor on Qi Tianxuan's body began to crack. It shattered and disappeared inch by inch. His body gradually shrank, and he soon returned to his original appearance. At this moment, Qi Tianxuan's face was pale and his hair was disheveled. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and his entire body went limp. He gripped his halberd tightly in his right hand and half knelt on the ground. Go cultivate for a few more years. You're still not strong enough. Naren Ryu looked at Qi Tianxian and said, not paying him much attention. She then turned her gaze towards Su Yi, who had already finished his battle, a cold light flashing in her eyes. Li Qingwei also won, someone exclaimed. On the golden boulder, Li Qingwei's body was shrouded in a bright light. Her clothes fluttered slightly, making her look like a fairy. The aura she exuded was powerful, and she had defeated the young man from Clear Sky Sect. Rumble. It was also at this moment that a rumbling sound rang out. A strange phenomenon appeared, and golden light shone dazzlingly. In an instant, everyone's gaze was drawn towards the source of the commotion. What they saw was a young man with a ferocious aura. His entire body was shrouded in a giant blue tiger illusory figure, as if he had transformed into a giant blue tiger. Roar! The tiger's roar shook the heavens as a terrifying aura erupted. The young man seemed to have fused with the giant blue tiger. He looked as if he was about to pounce. "The Beast Emperor sect is really strong," someone exclaimed. That was the Beast Emperor sect's method. The Beast Emperor sect had many methods that were related to the demonic beast. They were incomparably powerful and they were the most terrifying. Although that young man wasn't as famous as the Shao Sea Lord, being able to reach this round proved that he was also a peerless genius. In the Xinjian Gate, everyone looked at Mu Yao anxiously. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Facing the terrifying aura of the young man, Mu Yao's eyes emitted a golden light. Then, with her body as the center, a dazzling golden light shone brighter and more dazzling. It emitted a dazzling radiance that attracted the energy of heaven and earth. Boom! In the next instant, a giant bird illusory figure appeared around Mu Yao. It flapped its wings and soared into the sky. Gee! The bird's cry pierced through the clouds. It was as if heavenly thunder rumbled, causing the surrounding space to ripple. The golden light was so dazzling that it caused the entire area to tremble. Flap, 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 when the bird spread its wings, it was as if it was alive. Its entire body shone with a golden light. As it flapped its wings, the space above the golden boulder seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. Roar! OKLV. When the bird appeared, the young man from the Beast Emperor sect couldn't help but tremble. "Oh my God, that's golden-winged great rock! That's a golden-winged great rock!" In an instant, someone exclaimed as they recognized the bird. It was the legendary golden-winged great rock. Who would have thought that Mu Yao from the Xinjian Gate would actually transform into a golden-winged great rock? The entire crowd was in an uproar. The golden-winged great rock was a legendary demonic beast. It was one of the strongest demonic beasts in the demonic beast. Goo. Chapter 8:14. It's rumored that she's a half-demon and is related to the great golden-winged rock race. It seems like the rumors are true. Many people from the 5 sects and 3 factions had complicated looks in their eyes. This was especially so for the experts from the Beast Emperor sect. The Beast Emperor sect was the most familiar with the greater demons of the demonic races. They were even more clear about what the great golden-winged rock race represented. Above the golden boulder, the great golden-winged rock flapped its wings and circled in the air. Its eyes were like 2 tiny suns, exuding a ferocious aura. Mu Yao stood above the golden boulder. Her orange robes fluttered in the wind as she stepped on the great golden-winged rock race. She looked like a holy maiden. The huge green tiger that had merged with the young man from the Beast Emperor sect stared at the golden-winged great rock with its ferocious eyes. The pressure radiating from the golden-winged great rock caused the young man's eyes to tremble. Roar! But very quickly, the green tiger roared. Its claws tore through space as it pounced towards the great golden-winged rock race. The great golden-winged rock swooped down as golden light shone from it. The 2 gigantic beasts clashed together as a dazzling light burst forth. Gales of energy rippled out in all directions. Rumble! The entire golden boulder was in a state of chaos. As the energy rippled out, 2 figures appeared. The green tiger around the young man from the Beast Emperor sect had already shattered. His feet scraped against the ground as he staggered backward. He staggered to the edge of the golden boulder as his face turned deathly pale. A golden light flashed and Mu Yao's slender figure appeared in front of the young man from the Beast Emperor sect, leaving behind afterimages. At this moment, Mu Yao's sparkling and translucent skin was suffused with golden light, causing her skin to look like golden suet jade. Her dress fluttered, her beautiful hair danced, and a tyrannical and fierce aura fluctuation erupted from her. She also revealed a special kind of beauty. Her moving face was solemn and dignified. She formed a hand seal in her hand, and a golden palm seal landed on the latter's chest. Bang! Golden light flashed as origin energy surged. The young man's eyes widened in shock, but it was already too late. His body flew backwards like a kite as blood spurted from his mouth. Pooh! The young man from the Beast Emperor sect smashed into the golden boulder as he coughed up blood. He lost. The spectators' eyes widened. The young man from the Beast Emperor sect was definitely strong, but he was still defeated. When the elders of the Beast Emperor sect saw the disciples of their sect being defeated, they couldn't help but feel regret in their hearts. As for the experts from the Xinjian Gate, they were all smiles. No matter what, the Xinjian Gate's eyes. She's so fast. Sui watched everything unfold before his eyes. Mu Yao had yet to reach Yuan Zhen's stage back then. However, from the looks of it, Mu Yao's cultivation had already reached the second level of Yuan Zhen's stage in the short span of 3 months. From the looks of it, she must have encountered some extraordinary fortuitous encounters during this period of time. At this moment, only Su Chen and Gong Qianxing were left. Xiao Si Jun and Feng Qingnong, Yan Lin and Lin Fan were left. Su Yi secretly adjusted his breathing and generously stuffed a vitality, replenishing elixir into his mouth. His gaze slowly swept across the rest of the golden boulders. The battles on the remaining golden boulders were abnormally intense, as if they were all using their full strength. It was very shocking. Bang bang bang! Su Chen and Gong Qianxing started their battle. Yuan Qi filled the air and soared into the clouds. The two of them retreated, but Su Chen didn't seem to be affected. His hair was a little messy and his breathing was ragged. Q positive H version and F first release. Gong Qianxing, on the other hand, seemed to be in a sorry state. His face was pale and his qi was much weaker than before. It was obvious that he had used up a lot of his energy. Gong Qianxing's face was solemn. His black hair, which was like a pool of water, scattered over his shoulders, was now disheveled. There were also cracks on his dark purple robe, but his deep facial features were still intoxicating. Soon, Gong Qianxing formed a hand seal. With him as the center, a wave of energy surged out. It made people's souls tremble. Is he finally going to use the power of a soul controller? Su Chen watched Gong Qianxing's actions. His clear eyes rippled, but there seemed to be no nervousness in them. But at this moment, there was another wave of energy fluctuating around Su Chen. His wind attributed Yuan Qi was faintly visible and dazzling. Then, the electric arcs surrounded his body. Originally, Su Chen's temperament was very amiable. He had an incomparably handsome face and a gentle temperament. His eyes were also very clear. However, at some point in time, this amiable and gentle temperament had become destructive and ferocious. His white clothes fluttered, giving off a feeling that he wanted to destroy everything. Roar! The roar of a beast was deafening. Gong Qianxing's body was shining brightly. A huge wave of energy, accompanied by the power of heaven and earth, condensed into a huge fierce beast, roaring ferociously. Gong Qianxing's eyes were shining brightly. He was sitting on the back of the fierce beast. His mighty power spread out and frightened people's souls. He looked down at Su Chen and said, "You've made me use my full strength. Now it's time for you to lose." Roar. At the same time, Gong Qianxing rushed out. At this moment, he didn't hold back at all. He also showed his skills as a soul controller. His terrifying attacks made the golden boulder tremble. The fierce beasts stepped forward. Their energy was like waves hitting the shore, fiercely attacking. It was so powerful that it made the onlookers tremble. Their souls were throbbing uneasily. The quality of the quasi-soul is very strong. It seems that Su Chen can't resist it. When the strong cultivators of the various groups sensed Gong Qianxing's strength, they couldn't help but sigh in admiration. His strength wasn't any weaker than Qi Tianxian's. Su Chen wouldn't be able to resist. Gong Qianxing's attack became extremely strong and overbearing at this moment. He wanted to defeat Su Chen in the most direct way to wash away the embarrassment of the long battle. He couldn't gain the upper hand against a rogue cultivator and even suffered a loss. This was his shame. At this moment, Gong Qianxing wanted to defeat Su Chen and show his elegance. He wanted to shock the central state with his battle in the Sacred Martial Arts Conference. Tianxian sect is almost like this. Let's end it. The terrifying attack swept over. Su Chen raised his eyes and his hair suddenly danced wildly. His temperament changed completely in an instant. It was a warm and gentle temperament. In an instant, he revived like a fierce god. His clear eyes were suddenly filled with lightning. Blood qi rolled around his body and electric arcs surged. It faintly led to lightning flashes and thunder. Dark clouds quietly gathered in the void, swallowing all the light in the surroundings. The area around the golden boulder fell into darkness. This is not good. Su Chen has wind attribute spiritual qi and lightning attribute spiritual qi. Chapter 8:15. Su Chen was a wind attribute Yuan Qi master, but he also possessed the thunder attribute. There were very few people who possessed two special attributes at the same time. More importantly, at this moment, Jian Wanyan felt that there was a terrifying aura coming from Su Chen's body. That aura seemed to be clearly suppressing Gong Qianxing boom. The void trembled, the wind rose, clouds surged, and thunder exploded. Su Chen did not retreat, instead. His right hand clenched into a fist and punched forward. In the surrounding void, lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and dark clouds rolled. This punch was like a blazing sun. Dazzling lightning bolts rushed into the sky and thunder continued to sweep towards Gong Qianxing's attack. Rumble! This was a big showdown. Arcs of lightning and Yuan Qi surged, like gorgeous fireworks exploding, sweeping in all directions. Lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, making people who watched from afar tremble in fear. Not good. In just a moment, the elders and experts of the Heavenly Xian sect stood up in horror, and their complexion changed dramatically. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the fierce beast phantom that Gong Qianxing was sitting on was collapsing. The sole attack that was enough to make any warrior fearful could not affect Su Chen at all. Puff! In an instant, Gong Qianxing spat out blood. The confidence in his eyes had been quietly replaced by shock. At this moment, Gong Qianxing clearly felt that the former's power had suddenly soared to the point that he could not contend with it. He had been preparing his trump card, wanting to give the other party a final blow, but who knew that the other party had not used his full strength? Quasi-heaven-grade soul quality, it seems that it is still lacking a little. A voice came out from Su Chen's mouth. It was incomparably domineering. His figure crossed the void, and with an unparalleled posture, he punched towards Gong Qianxing. Bang! An arc of lightning exploded on Gong Qianxing's chest, and his Yuan Qi light shield was shattered. He spat out blood again, and his body was blasted away. Bang! As Gong Qianxing fell, the golden boulder trembled, and he spat out blood. The arc of lightning on his body was still fluctuating. He struggled a few times, but was unable to get up. My goodness, he really hit it well. Although Su Yi had always known that Su Chen was unfathomable, he couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Su Chen's strength. Su Chen possessed wind and lightning attribute. His combat strength was too shocking. Let's decide the victor. Not far away, Jian Wuk and the extraordinary youth from Driving Heaven's palace were about to decide a victor. Jian Wuk was already going all out. The treasured sword in his hand was filled with the sound of wind and thunder. This treasured sword was definitely at the level of a Dao artifact. Sword light gushed out, releasing an incomparably fierce aura. Swish, 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 streaks of sword radiance crisscrossed and enveloped the entire golden boulder. It was as if a net of swords had been constructed and spread out fiercely towards the former. It was as if 10,000 swords were moving at the same time. This Jian Wuk also has 1 foot in the Yuan Zhen realm 3rd level. The divine sword sex sky raising drifting cloud sword has also been cultivated to such a level. This generation of divine sword sex youngsters, there are quite a few peerless talents. Looking at Jian Wuk's attack, many experts were secretly impressed. Jian Wuk's strength was indeed not to be underestimated. I have also comprehended this sword technique. I am going to test it out. M looking at version X. Chapter R Section Supra. Chapter R Section Supra. The eyes of the driving heavens palace's youth shone brightly. Battle intent surged in his eyes. The treasured sword in his hand rumbled and shone brightly. Its level was not below Jian Wuk's sword. The sword radiance flashed and released an incomparably resplendent sword radiance, clashing with the former. In an instant, the golden boulder was surrounded by dancing sword radiance. The sword radiance swept across. Even from afar, one could feel the terror and sharpness. Spatial ripples spread out continuously, shaking the surroundings. Clang clang, sparks flew as the sword radiance clashed. It was so fast that it was dazzling. The sword radiance shattered and the 2 figures clashed. Jian Wuk took advantage of the situation and stretched out his left hand. 2 fingers moved and light flashed from his fingertips. The sound of wind breaking could be heard as a sharp sword radiance burst out, aiming straight for the former. The eyes of the driving heavens palace's youth darkened. His robes fluttered in the wind as he punched out with his left hand. Yuan Qi wrapped around the sword radiance as the 2 collided and shattered it. Xiao! Jian Wuk's treasured sword pierced out. Wind and thunder clashed as the sword radiance flashed like lightning. The sword radiance was dazzling and had already reached the former's forehead. Qi La, the sword radiance pierced through the latter's forehead. Many people were shocked. Jian Wuk had won. But at this moment, the body of the driving heavens palace's youth was shattered. There was no blood flowing out. Jian Wuk's expression changed drastically. He seemed to have sensed something and quickly retreated. Qi La, but it was too late. The sword radiance was like lightning as it pierced through the torture chamber. It was as fast as lightning and as powerful as thunder. Jian Wuk's pupils constricted. His movement technique was strange as he quickly retreated. Yuan Qi gathered in front of his chest and a sword light shield appeared. Qi La, the sword radiance pierced through the sword light shield. At this moment, Jian Wuk's cultivation level was almost at the peak of the 3rd level of Yuan Zhen realm. Xiao! At this moment, Jian Wuk avoided the vital part of his chest. But the sword was like a shadow as it pierced through his shoulder. Blood splattered as Jian Wuk's expression changed drastically. He quickly retreated and escaped from the sword radiance. Bang! It was too fast. The driving heavens palace's youth's speed suddenly increased. His left hand had already punched out and it landed on Jian Wuk's body like lightning. Puchi! Jian Wuk spat out blood as his body flew backwards and landed heavily on the golden boulder. Han Luyun had been holding back. He only used his full strength now. Driving Heaven's Palace is indeed the Driving Heaven's Palace. Han Luyun is too strong. Everyone was shocked. The strength of that young disciple from Imperial Heavenly Palace was beyond their expectations, but it was also within their expectations. After all, Han Luyun was a disciple of the Driving Heavens Palace. He represented the Driving Heavens Palace to participate in the sacred martial assembly. How could he be weak? Jian Wuk stood up. His robe was stained with blood and there were many tears on it. His shoulder was bleeding and he spat out blood. His face was pale and there was a hint of loneliness in his eyes. He had lost and had no chance to enter the next round. The sword in Han Liuyun's hand was retracted. His face was pale as he stuffed an elixir into his mouth. There were also tears on his robe. It was obvious that he had not used his full strength and was at a disadvantage. This Han Luyun hid his strength too well. In the Xinjian Gate, the elders and experts were all disappointed. Jian Wuk was definitely very strong. His comprehension of the sword Dao had shocked even some of the experts in the gate. Although Jian Wuk was only at the peak of the second level of Yuan Zhen realm, his battle strength was enough to fight against opponents of a higher level. But now, he had lost to Han Luyun from the Driving Heavens Palace. Chapter 8:16. Humph. Feeling the gaze of Deputy Palace Master Guanlon, Elder Su Kuanga glanced sideways and snorted faintly from his throat. The battle of the top 16 was too intense. Only Yen Lin and Lin Fan, Shaoxi Lord and Feng Qingnong, were left. Fight! Shaoxi Lord's attack was fierce and overbearing. Her body's yuan qi surged. Her black hair had already scattered and danced in the wind. Her slender body was covered with a yuan qi halo. She was handsome and looked like a war god. Her surroundings were faintly accompanied by the shadows of beasts. Feng Qingnong was also very strong. His body was glowing brightly, and there was a terrifying glow in his eyes. The surroundings were like clouds and mist. Both of them were extraordinary and handsome. In the intense battle, many girls in the surroundings were cheering for them. Feng Qingnong used all his strength. 2 swords appeared in his hands. One was 3 feet long and the other was 1 foot long. Wind and thunder clashed, and the sword qi was like a rainbow. As the origin energy under his feet took the form of a ferocious beast, Feng Qingnong unleashed his final suppression, shaking the entire area. Such an attack caused the expressions of Li Qingwei, Mu Yao, Han Luyun, and the others, who had just defeated their opponents, to change. Su Yi was also very moved. This Feng Qingnong was indeed the number 1 seed of the Blue Cloud sect. His strength was able to look down on his peers. He was incomparably strong. Latest chapter. Section W1CN, Shaoxi Lord's eyes were filled with fighting intent. Under Feng Qingnong's attack, she did not dodge. Instead, she advanced. She was barehanded. Shadows of beasts kept appearing around her. Her skin was also glowing with a special light, and a terrifying power exploded. Break! With a loud shout, Shaoxi Lord's hands danced. Monstrous yuan qi surged out from her body and resonated with the energy of heaven and earth. A bright light exploded. Various kinds of light surged. Following which, many shadows of beasts rushed towards Feng Qingnong. The sword light pierced through some of the shadows of beasts. However, the shadows of beasts also blocked the sword light. With the 2 of them as the center, the surrounding void kept making muffled sounds. Lose! Lord Shaoxi exploded with power. Her hair danced in the wind and her clothes fluttered in the wind. For the final attack, the origin energy in her body surged out. Her hands formed a seal, and a resplendent shadow of a flood dragon rushed out, accompanied by surging demonic energy. Roar! The flood dragon roared as if it was alive. Demonic qi spread across the void. Feng Qingnong's expression changed. The 2 swords combined, an array of sword light slashed horizontally. Accompanied by clouds and mist, it headed towards the dragon's shadow. The 2 of them collided once again, causing the void to rumble as spatial ripples spread out. The flood dragon rushed. It opened its mouth to swallow the sword light. However, that billowing demonic qi ruthlessly crashed into Feng Qingnong's body. Deng deng! Feng Qingnong's body. Feng Qingnong's body. Shaoxi Jun staggered back as well, but after a few steps, she steadied herself and let out a muffled groan. Feng Qingnong wanted to continue fighting. When the yuan qi in his body circulated once more, for some unknown reason, he suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood. You've been hit by my heavenly dragon energy. If you continue to force yourself, it will destroy your foundation. If you're lucky, you'll go berserk. If you're lucky, your meridians will collapse. Shaoxi Lord looked at Feng Qingnong. His heavenly dragon energy was his trump card. Feng Qingnong's expression was solemn, and his eyes were desolate. He still had the strength to fight, but he did not doubt the Lord Shaoxi's words at all. At that moment, there was a terrifying power in his body that could not be dispelled. It was like a ferocious dragon that was entrenched in his body. Once he used his energy, this power would shatter his meridians. Beast Emperor Sex, heavenly dragon energy. He was too careless. Looking at the changes in the battlefield, the elders and experts of 3 Yuan sect were sullen. Feng Qingnong couldn't fight anymore. He had no chance to enter the next round. On the contrary, the elders and experts of Beast Emperor sect smiled. Although the other disciple lost to Mu Yao from Xinjian Gate, Shaoxi Lord didn't let them down and entered the next round. At this moment, there were only 2 people left in the arena who were still fighting fiercely. Lin Fan looked energetic. He wasn't old, probably not even 20 years old. His body was covered in mist, and his white robes fluttered. How elegant! Lin Fan's aura was strong. Step by step, the light around him was bright and dazzling, suppressing Yan Lin. Without a doubt, Lin Fan was strong. At such a young age, he had reached such a level. Many experts were shocked. I didn't expect Lin Fan from Distinct Void Sect to have such talent. The experts from the 5 sects and 3 factions were shocked. Clear Sky Sect's Chen Yanhuan wasn't even 20 years old, but his strength was terrifying. He was a genius among geniuses. But now, Lin Fan didn't seem to be inferior to Chen Yanhuan. Lin Fan was strong, too strong. He was the #1 person in the younger generation of Distinct Void Sect. He was in high spirits and looked handsome. Many girls were cheering for him, and the young men were cheering for him. On the other hand, Yan Lin was ugly. He was half human and half beast, and his face was fierce. Many people were disgusted with him. After being suppressed by Lin Fan, there were people who booed him. But in the battlefield, there were people with sharp eyes who were more and more shocked. Especially the elders from the 5 sects and 3 groups. They all stared at the scene with puzzled looks on their faces. Even the elders and experts of the Distinct Void Sect didn't have any smiles on their faces. Instead, their expressions grew more and more serious. How could they not see that although Lin Fan seemed to have the upper hand from the beginning, no matter how Lin Fan suppressed him, he couldn't suppress Yan Lin. Yan Lin's attacks were simple and direct, as if he only knew how to use brute force. But Lin Fan couldn't completely suppress him. Boom! The black scales on Yan Lin's body opened up, and a fierce aura burst out. He was being suppressed barehanded. His face turned serious, but he wasn't afraid. The black scales on his body were indestructible, and were his best defense and weapon. At this moment, the battlefield had quietened down, and only Lin Fan and Yan Lin were left. This made Lin Fan more and more anxious. He didn't hold back anymore, and his cultivation base, which was close to the peak of 2nd level Yuan Zhen realm, swept out. Boom! Lin Fan's aura exploded, and a bright light surrounded him, causing the space to ripple. Green Cloud Seal. With a deep cry, Lin Fan instantly formed a handprint in his hand. A handprint moved quickly. There was a misty airflow lingering on the handprint. It was incomparably violent as it churned. It was like a gale sweeping past, causing a woo-woo sound to resound in the surroundings. Even the space around the handprint became slightly distorted and illusory. This palm seal contained Lin Fan's full strength. A powerful force enveloped the surroundings like a storm, and the violent wind was enough to tear the space apart. Chapter 8:17. This Yan Lin is actually so strong? How is this possible? Seeing this scene, many experts were shocked. Let's end this. With a low shout, a bright light bloomed and a violent energy gathered. Lin Fan's figure had already strangely closed in. With Lin Fan as the center, a violent energy swirled around like a tornado. A violent aura covered the entire area, emitting waves of violent energy like a tidal wave. At the same time, a fist landed on Yenlin's chest. Bang! A terrifying force spread out and Yuan Qi clashed. A muffled sound of energy rang out from Yenlin's chest. A violent force spread out in all directions, exploding with an incomparably terrifying force. Walala, the tide-like violent force and light enveloped a large area, covering Yenlin within. The violent force brought along a sharp sound of breaking wind as it spread out. Countless eyes trembled. This attack was too powerful. It wasn't easy for Yenlin to reach this step. In the end, he was defeated. Some people felt that it was a pity. Yenlin was half human, half beast, half monster. It was already not easy for him to reach this step. Su Yi's eyes were also filled with regret. Yenlin seemed to have always been using brute force to fight, breaking through everything with brute force. However, he still lacked the ability to adapt and experience. Otherwise, Lin Fan wouldn't have been able to take advantage of him. A terrifying force surged out, engulfing the surroundings of the golden boulder. It spread out into the distance before gradually dissipating. Roar! At this moment, when almost everyone thought that Yenlin had been defeated, a beastly roar that resembled a dragon's roar was suddenly emitted from the spreading energy wind that was about to be annihilated. A strange red light overflowed into the sky. It was incomparably dazzling as it soared into the clouds. Demonic aura filled the sky as a ferocious aura descended. Within the resplendent black and red light, a 20-foot-tall figure appeared. His entire body was covered with black scales. However, within the black scales, a red light burst out. At this moment, Yenlin's face was completely covered by black scales. It was as if he had truly turned into a beast. Only his eyes were left, flickering with red light like two suns. His arms were like stone pillars, and the scales were opened. It was strange and terrifying, like a dragon's claw, emitting a red light that overflowed the sky. Not good. The elders and experts of the distinct Void sect originally thought that the outcome of the battle had been decided. This sudden change caused their faces to change greatly as they cried out in alarm. Roar! A dragon-like roar came out from Yenlin's mouth, deafening everyone's ears. His eyes emitted a blazing light as his right claw landed on Lin Fan's shoulder. That gigantic dragon claw gripped onto Lin Fan's shoulder. Instantly, fresh blood spurted out, and the sound of bones breaking could be heard. This change was beyond Lin Fan's expectations. It was too shocking, and his face changed. Not good. Lin Fan's face changed as he cried out in his heart. In his panic, the Yuan Qi around his body surged as a strange energy gushed out from his body and covered his shoulder. With a sudden struggle, he actually managed to break free from the dragon claw. Immediately, his feet touched the ground as he rapidly retreated. Qi La. Lin Fan was quick, but Yenlin's second dragon claw appeared and directly swept out. A ferocious aura erupted as the sharp claw swept across the ground, wrapping around Lin Fan's leg. Yenlin's powerful claw instantly tightly held onto the ankle. Using the most barbaric and direct method, he viciously lifted Lin Fan up and smashed him down. Bang! It was completely barbaric and ferocious. Lin Fan's eyes were aghast as his pupils shrunk. He was already unable to block and was heavily smashed onto the ground by Yenlin's leg like a loach. Bang bang! The huge golden rock trembled as it was smashed. Caw-caw sounds of bones breaking could be heard. A large mouthful of blood was also spat out from Lin Fan's mouth. His robes were dyed with blood, dripping with fresh blood. Blood flowed out from his shoulder, and a couple of deep bloody holes appeared. His face was also extremely pale, and it was difficult for him to stand up. This scene caused the hearts of countless people to momentarily stop beating for a moment. There was a bone-chilling feeling. The experts and elders of the distinct void sect felt as if their hearts were dripping blood. The Shaoxi Lord, Han Luyun, and the others who had already won were all extremely powerful. But when they saw this scene, they couldn't help but feel their hearts tremble. Deng deng, Yan Lin's huge body also staggered back. The scarlet light dissipated, and everything returned to normal. However, the corners of his lips were white, and his aura had also become extremely weak. But from the looks of it, Lin Fan no longer had the strength to continue fighting. It was obvious that Yan Lin had won. The surroundings were momentarily silent. Especially the young men and women who had been cheering for Lin Fan, they were all dumbfounded. Lin Fan couldn't get up several times and lost the strength to continue fighting. He was completely defeated. 1. The sound of a bell resounded through the air. Congratulations to the Holy Mountain's disciple Narenryu, Clear Sky Sect's disciple Li Qingwei, Xinjian Gate's disciple Mu Yao, Beast Emperor Sect's disciple Shaoxi Lord, Yutian Palace's disciple Han Luyun, Bawang Sect's disciple Yi Su, Su Chen, and Yan Lin. A total of 8 people have entered the next round. Ouyang Yuanfeng's expression wasn't too good, but he had no choice but to stand up and stand in the air. His voice, which was mixed with Yuan Qi, reverberated through the mountains. Boom! When Ouyang Yuanfeng's voice fell, the surroundings, which were originally silent for a short moment, were instantly filled with clamor. Narenryu is invincible! Su Chen is so handsome, he must win! Li Qingwei, you are our goddess! Yi Su, sweep through the 4 directions! Mu Yao, rise up and suppress the 4 directions! Shaoxi Lord is invincible! Han Luyun is mighty! Yan Lin, you must win! At this moment, the remaining 8 people on the 8 huge golden rocks had undoubtedly obtained quite a number of followers. There were people who raised their arms and cheered for them, cheering for them, and following them in an uproar. In this world, martial arts reigned supreme, and the strong reigned supreme. The remaining 8 could be said to have proven their talent to be peerless. Their strength was enough to sweep away their peers. This was the battle of heaven's chosen, and they were revered and followed by tens of thousands of people. This was especially so for Narenryu, Shaoxi Jun, Han Luyun, and the others. Each of them had a background that made others envious. In addition to their talent and strength, they were followed by all their peers. Some of the older ones were also impressed. Li Qingwei and Mu Yao, the 2 women who had entered the top 8, were like fairies. Their figures were graceful, and their curves were exquisite. Countless young men's eyes burned with desire. However, they were out of their reach, and they could only look at them with burning eyes. Su Chen, with the strength to defeat Gong Qian Xing and his handsome face, caused countless women to crazily shout for him. There were even middle-aged beautiful women in the crowd who couldn't help but have their eyes ripple and fall in love with him. Chapter 8:18. On the other hand, Su Yi already had quite a number of followers. Killing Chu Zhanghuan in such a domineering manner had already left a deep impression in the hearts of countless youngsters. However, due to the presence of the sacred mountain and the warnings of their elders, they did not dare to shout out loud. Some people were lying on the golden boulders, unable to get up. Experts from their respective sects rushed out and helped them back. In the formation of the 5 sects and 3 factions, some of the experts and elders were happy while some were sad. The ones who were sad were the experts of the 3 Yuan sect and Heavenly Xian sect. Among the top 8, no one from their sects had entered. Lin Feng, Gong Qianxing, and the other disciples had fought with great strength but were defeated in the end. Jian Wanyan's face was gloomy and there was an unknown anger in his heart. Gong Qianxing's strength could not be said to be weak. He was a soul controller with a quasi-heaven-grade soul quality, and was known as the first person in the Tianxian sect in 1,000 years. However, he was stopped outside the top 8 and was even defeated by an unknown rogue cultivator. This made the Tianxian sect lose face. The elders and powerhouses of the distinct Void sect were sullen as well. Lin Fan's talent was extraordinary, and he had obtained a great opportunity. They thought that he would be able to enter the top 8 or even the top 4. But who would have thought that he would lose to a rogue cultivator, and a half-human half-beast one at that? Lin Fan shouldn't have been defeated. He still has a trump card. If he used a Dao artifact, Yen Lin would not have been able to resist. In the Qingshu sect, there was an elder who was full of regret and anxiety. He could see that Yen Lin was indeed strange and powerful, but he was at the end of his rope. Lin Fan still had a Dao artifact that he had not used. If he used it, he would have had an 80% chance of winning and suppressing Yen Lin. Lin Fan's defeat today is regrettable. However, it might be a good thing for him in the future. In the sect, he has never been defeated before. He is invincible among his peers, and has a heart full of pride. If he can walk out of this defeat and learn that there is always someone better than him, then this defeat will be worth it. In front of the distinct void sex formation, a cloud-robed old man spoke softly, his eyes shining brightly. In the sacred mountain lineup, although Naren Ryu won and entered the next round without any suspense, the gazes of Ice Cauldron and the others didn't look too good. They had hoped that Yi Su would enter the next round, but the flaming scale Void Dust, who was on good terms with Yi Su, had also entered the top 8. This was not what they hoped for. 3 such talented youngsters working together to become enemies with the Holy Mountain was not a good thing for the Holy Mountain in the future. Although the sacred mountain had stood tall in the Central Plains for 10,000 years and no one could shake it, the sacred mountain's reputation could not be challenged or affected by anyone. The next round will be even more intense. The experts and elders in the Xinjian Gate, Blue Cloud Sect, Beast Emperor Sect, and the others' formations all turned serious after a moment of joy. Although Mu Yao, Li Qingwei, and Xiao Si Jun had all entered the top 8, how could these experts from the mountain sects not see that at this point, none of the remaining 8 people were easy to provoke? Especially Naren Ryu and Yi Su. That void dust was unfathomable. Han Liuyun's cultivation base was at the peak of the 3rd level of Yuan Zhen realm, and he had already stepped into the top tier of these youngsters. On the golden boulder, Su Yi heaved a long sigh as he watched. His gaze swept across the 7 people still standing on the golden boulder, and Su Yi's heart trembled. Since they were able to defeat their respective opponents, none of the remaining 7 were weak. However, there were no weaklings among those who were defeated in the previous round. Feng Qingnong, Chen Yanhuan, Lin Fan, and the others were all extremely terrifying. They were defeated and had no chance to enter the next round. They were just unlucky to have met a stronger opponent. If it was another opponent, they might have had a chance to enter the next round. As the number 1 of their generation in the big sects, they naturally had their reasons for being there. Especially Han Luyun, who was already at the 3rd level of Yuan Zhen realm. He was not old and had surpassed his peers by a lot. This made Su Yi's heart tremble. He had yet to step into the Yuan Zhen realm, and was lagging too far behind. Yen Lin's face was pale. Looking at Su Yi's gaze, he nodded and smiled, looking very simple and honest. Su Yi nodded in response. He was the most shocked by Yen Lin. He did not expect Yen Lin to be able to defeat Lin Fan with brute force. Let's continue to the next round. The rules are the same. Let's begin. Ouyang Yuanfeng's voice was mixed with Yuan Qi. Rumble. The 8 golden boulders were once again filled with golden light and holy aura, as if they were alive. The 8 boulders seemed to be pushed by a giant underground as they spun and their aura soared to the heavens. Boom! At this moment, countless gazes from the thousands of peaks surged with passion. The 8 boulders split into 4. On top of the boulders, 8 people stood, each relying on their luck to meet their opponent. Naren Ryu looked up. His body was covered in light. In front of him was Han Luyun, who was in the Yutian Palace. 2 graceful figures faced each other, both with exquisite curves. Li Qingwei and Mu Yao stood together. two peerless beauties, whose beauty could topple cities. These two goddess-like ladies were the most eye-catching, causing countless young men to look at them with burning eyes. Yen Lin looked at his opponent and smiled bitterly. His opponent was actually Su Chun. At this moment, Xiaoxi looked at the opponent in front of her with a complicated look in her eyes, and she frowned slightly. This was because her opponent was Yi Su from the Bawang sect. Xiaoxi Lord had absolute confidence in herself, especially before the sacred martial assembly. Although she knew that Yi Su from the Bawang sect had easily defeated Ouyang Jinwei, who had the holy ruler aura, she had never treated Yi Su from the Bawang sect as her true opponent. However, not long ago, Chu Zhonghuan had been killed in the image in the void. Only then did Xiaoxi Lord realize that Yi Su from the Bawang sect had become one of her greatest opponents. At this moment, Xiaoxi Lord's black hair had already been loosened. She looked at Su Yi as her aura slowly surged and her hair began to dance. "Go for it." X was the first to speak. "Who is the true king of heaven's prides? Who can defeat everyone?" The eight of them faced each other, and the surroundings were filled with excitement and clamor. The experts from the 5 sects and 3 factions also focused their gazes. Boom! Someone was the first to release his aura, and a terrifying and domineering aura rushed out. Dazzling golden light spread out, shocking everyone. Chapter 8:19. As the golden light spread out, Mu Yao's exquisite and delicate body was suffused with a golden luster. On her body, rays of strange golden brilliance spread out. Her arms seemed to be expanding, as the bones in her entire body emitted crackling sounds. An indescribable tyrannical and fierce aura spread out from her body. When this happened, many experts from the 5 sects and 3 factions were shocked. It's rumored that this woman has the bloodline of the golden-winged Great Rock clan. I wonder how much she has obtained. In the Heavenly Palace, Vice Palace Master Guan Lan looked at Mu Yao's transformation and muttered to himself curiously. Demonic qi pervaded the air. Everything happened very quickly. Amidst the spread of golden light, Mu Yao's alluring figure instantly swelled up by quite a bit. Her slender hands expanded as golden light pervaded the air, turning sharp. Golden light flowed on her palms like feathers, while a terrifying demonic qi pressure surged and rippled from within her beautiful and alluring figure. Awoo! At this moment, there were many demonic beasts in the mountain range. The scarlet-eyed green flood dragon in front of the Holy Mountains formation, the gold-eyed flying tiger in front of the Beast Emperor Sex formation, the ancient spiritual cloud crane in front of the blue cloud sex formation, and the ancient black-scaled demonic dragon in front of the heavenly arcane sex formation. When they felt the demonic aura, they roared and trembled for no reason. Demonic aura, this is the true demonic aura. It's rumored that Mu Yao has a half-demon body. Is she going to turn into a demon? Many people exclaimed when they felt the demonic aura. This demonic aura was too strong and domineering. What a terrifying demonic aura! Many experts from the 5 sects and 3 factions were shocked when they felt the aura from Mu Yao's body. In next to no time, amidst the roiling demonic qi and golden light interweaved, an enormous golden-winged rock that was over 30 m in size instantly floated up into appearance, and it fused with Mu Yao's graceful and beautiful figure. From afar, Mu Yao seemed to have turned into a golden baby rock and merged completely with the golden-winged great rock behind her. It was as though she had turned into a real golden-winged great rock. Her domineering aura swept out in all directions. The bloodline of the golden-winged great rock is actually so rich. In the Blue Cloud sect, Elder Su Yun looked at the field with ripples in her eyes. This Mu Yao is directly using her trump card. She wants to end this battle quickly. Inside the Emerald Cloud sect, the other elders and powerhouses were also watching intently at this moment. Looking at Mu Yao, Li Qingwei's eyes, which were like deep pools, also darkened. The space between her eyebrows slightly trembled, and a wisp of invisible energy immediately spread out. Her slender and delicate hands continuously formed hand seals. Her pure white dress fluttered in the wind, making her figure even more graceful. She was like a fairy, untainted by dust. In an instant, a formless energy surged. Li Qingwei's hair fluttered in the wind. Her body was shrouded in light, making her look like a saintess. A spiritual storm also swept out like a hurricane, blasting open and shaking the golden boulder. Li Qingwei is using the methods of a soul controller. Is this a quasi-heaven-grade soul? What a strong pressure! Some experts were moved. This kind of soul aura was too strong. Many people nearby were shocked to find that the yuan qi in their bodies was blocked. The souls in their minds were throbbing, and from the depths of their souls, a kind of absolute reverence gushed out toward the terrifying aura. They wanted to worship the young and graceful figure. This was a reverence at the soul level. When a soul met a soul king, it would be affected even if it was far away. Boom! In this short period of time, Mu Yao's figure and the great rock's shadow had completely merged together. It was as if they were one. Her arms and delicate hands, which were covered by a domain, moved together with the wings of the great rock. She had turned into a golden-winged great rock. Golden light overflowed. Her figure floated in midair. The shadow had completely solidified. It was as if a real great rock had descended. Oh my God, this is a real demon transformation! Everyone was shocked. Looking at the golden-winged great rock on the battle stage, an uproar could be heard. At this moment, it was as if a real golden-winged great rock had descended. Feeling the fierce and domineering pressure, the hearts of countless people trembled. At this moment, that beautiful woman had truly turned into a golden-winged great rock. What a strong bloodline! Unbelievable! Within the 5 sects and 3 factions, there were experts who cried out in surprise. They were incomparably shocked. Ku, with a clear cry, the golden-winged great rock's cry pierced through the clouds and cracked stone. Its huge body was covered in golden light. Layers of visible golden feathers were like sharp scales. With countless ear-piercing whistling sounds, it swept towards Li Qingwei. Mu Yao knew Li Qingwei's strength. She had been paying attention to everyone present. At this point, if she did not end this battle quickly, she would be the one to suffer. Boom! Li Qingwei also launched a counterattack. Light erupted and energy was vast and mighty. A human-shaped shadow broke through the air. Green light filled the sky and mist filled the air. This was a remnant soul, but its strength was abnormally terrifying. Standing in the air, it slapped a palm towards the golden-winged great rock that Mu Yao had transformed into. A terrifying force was in the palm of its hand like an erupting volcano. Green light shone brightly, and there was a clear sound of wind and thunder. Sonorous clangs sounded like thunder, rumbling. In an instant, the surroundings of this golden boulder were like the sea surging with monstrous waves. Layer upon layer, the raging waves beat the shore and collided with each other. The golden-winged great rock spread its wings. Golden light spread out, wanting to smash the raging waves. The raging waves were monstrous. Layer upon layer, they crushed everything. Some of the golden light was shattered, turning into a golden rain of light. A crack was also opened in the raging waves. The monstrous waves were lifted, turning into a rain of energy that spread in all directions in a ring. Too strong. In such a battle, they had used their full strength right from the start. It made people gasp. These 2 women were both peerless beauties. Their strength was equally terrifying and valiant. Look at the QXS Plus on the C*** or version I chapter. At this moment, Mu Yao used her full strength. It was incomparably terrifying. Golden light spread out. The great rock shook and flapped its wings. Its aura was not held back at all. Bathed in the golden light, it set off terrifying waves with the body of the golden-winged great rock. It carried an incomparably domineering aura and crushed Li Qingwei. Li Qingwei frowned slightly. Her eyes shone. Her originally fairy-like temperament was now like a war god. Her temperament had become completely different. The soul controller's methods were activated. Drawing on the remnant soul, the human-shaped shadow condensed. Accompanied by a terrifying soul power, it collided with Mu Yao. Anyone would be wary of soul attack. However, at this moment, Mu Yao seemed to have an inexplicable advantage. The domineering and terrifying demonic aura on her body seemed to be able to resist soul attacks to the greatest extent. Sensing Mu Yao's advantage, Li Qingwei was moved. The bloodline of the golden-winged great rock was too strong. She knew that she had met a great enemy today. Mu Yao of Xinjian Gate, a half-demon, was actually so strong. Boom! Chapter 820. Standard Tick version X * initial Abhair HQ. Her cry pierced through the clouds and split rocks. Mu Yao seemed as if she'd transformed into a real rock, and her might and combat strength were much more formidable than when she was at her peak. Her golden wings flapped fiercely, causing violent gales to arise, and it seemed to have formed a golden vortex that warped the air and emitted the sound of wind and thunder. "Show me your true strength and fight," Xiaoxi said as she looked at Sui. Light surged in her deep eyes. As his voice faded, Lord Xiaoxi's loose hair fluttered in the wind. His slender body was enveloped in a halo of primordial energy. He looked handsome, like a god of war. Around him, shadows of beasts appeared and sank. Sui retracted his gaze from the two beauties at the side and looked at Xiaoxi Jun. He felt her astonishing aura and guessed that she was still holding back. Perhaps she still had some trump cards up her sleeve. Fight. Her eyes filled with battle intent, Xiaoxi made her move. She was barehanded, and the shadows of beasts kept appearing around her. At this moment, even her skin was emitting a special kind of light, bursting with a terrifying power. Awo! While locking her hands together, Xiaoxi didn't hold back at all. A sky-devouring power surged out from her body, resonating with the natural powers and releasing a dazzling light. Instantly, quite a number of beast silhouettes roared out from around Xiaoxi's body, rushing towards Sui. Isu had used his full strength right from the start. Xiaoxi Jun knew that the overlord sex Isu was very strong. Even Chu Zhanghuan was no match for Isu. He had no choice but to fight with all his might. Very strong. Su Yi's eyes flashed. The young lord was truly strong, and the Beast Emperor sex methods were truly extraordinary. However, at the same time, a whirlpool-like light gushed out from Su Yi's clear and deep eyes. A terrifying and ancient aura filled the air, as if it could suppress everything in all directions. This was the aura of the ancient Heaven Fei Sutra. Su Yi had used the ancient Heaven Fei Sutra, but he had concealed it slightly, concealing quite a bit of the aura that leaked out. Su Yi didn't want to expose his identity. After all, there were experts from Xinjian Gate present. They could easily detect his identity. In an instant, Su Yi's robes fluttered, his black hair danced wildly, and the entire golden boulder trembled. Vigorous energy swept out from his body, making him seem like a young god of war, and also like a demon cub. He emitted a peerlessly ferocious aura, inexplicably dignified and domineering, and he pushed towards Xiaoxi Jun with his bare hands. The two instantly collided, and the muffled sound of energy and the violent force instantly surged out. The experts and elders of the Beast Emperor sect stared at the battle between the Xiaoxi Lord and Su Yi with a strange look in their eyes, unable to take their eyes off the battle. Han Luyun and Naren Ruyu didn't say anything. The battle had already begun, and the aura of the two permeated the air. Naren Ruyu's aura was holy, and her entire body was enveloped in a misty holy aura. The terrifying aura was so terrifying that no one dared to look directly at it. Boom! Han Luyun didn't hold back, and the aura of a third-level Yuan Zhen realm expert surged out. He directly activated his soul manipulation skills, and the remnant soul's power resonated with the heavens and earth, transforming into a giant beast. It roared as if it wanted to overturn the heavens and earth, and swept towards Narenryu. The Holy Mountain was the #1 power in the Central State. The Imperial Palace was an extremely mysterious existence, and the only power that the Holy Mountain was afraid of. There had always been an invisible competition between the two. How dare the light of a firefly compete with the brilliance of the moon? Narenryu shouted in a deep voice. Under the holy aura, a dazzling light expanded from her back, transforming into a pair of wings. Narenryu's body was enveloped in a dazzling halo. She flapped her wings and turned into a flash of lightning. Her handsome face with a high nose, thin lips, and sword-like eyebrows appeared in front of Han Luyun. She punched out, and light shone in all directions, dispersing the spatial ripples. It was incomparably terrifying. The power of this punch was too strong, so strong that it was unimaginable. However, Han Luyun was also very strong. She went all out and used all her trump cards. The level of her soul was comparable to Li Qingwei, and she was definitely not inferior to Narenryu. Narenryu was dazzling. Her young and tall figure was like a dragon, and her holy aura was wrapped around her. She flapped her wings and soared through the void, exploding with unimaginable combat strength. As the strongest of the younger generation in the Holy Mountain, the holy son of the Holy Mountain, she had far surpassed her peers. The most dazzling geniuses of the same generation would dim in front of her, not daring to compete with her. Han Luyun was also very strong. He was the #1 seed sent by the Imperial Palace of Central State to participate in the Sacred Martial Assembly. It represented his identity. Now that he was facing off against Narenryu, it proved that he had such strength. Boom! On the 3 golden boulders, the battle was already intense from the beginning. The 6 of them wanted to end the battle quickly. Muffled sounds of energy could be heard everywhere. Yuan Qi surged, and the energy of heaven and earth was in chaos. Shadows of beasts appeared and spread in all directions. It was a terrifying scene. Many elders and experts were shocked from the bottom of their hearts. These young people were too strong. They had sharp eyesight and had seen many things, but they were also deeply moved. The talent of these young people was too rare. Any one of them was a genius among geniuses. They were all peerless geniuses. In the future, any one of these young people would be able to shake the world and become an overlord of a region. But now, these young people had to have a winner. This was the most intense battle. Let's start too. Although I can feel that I can't defeat you right now. Yan Lin looked away from the battle around him and looked at Su Chun. He could feel that Su Chun was unfathomably strong. It would be difficult for him to fight against him. Su Chun looked at Yan Lin and smiled. He tossed a fragrant pill to Yan Lin and said, "Eat it before you fight. You've already used up a lot of energy." Yan Lin was surprised. He took the medicinal pill and looked at Su Chun. Immediately after, he put the medicinal pill away and said, "It's not fair. This is my last attack. You have to be careful." When he finished talking, Yan Lin raised his head and a strange red light emerged from his body. It was incomparably dazzling. Bestial chi rose to the sky. Immediately after, he turned into a 6-meter-tall silhouette. His entire body was covered with black scales. Red lights emerged from his scales. Roar! A roar like that of a dragon emerged from Yan Lin's mouth. At that moment, his face was completely covered with black scales. He looked like a real beast. Only his eyes were flickering with red lights. They looked like 2 dazzling suns. Su Chen's expression changed. It seemed like he was thinking about something. However, he didn't act carelessly. Lights emerged from his body and he calmly stood there. For some reason, he released a powerful chi. Roar! Chapter 821. This attack was too powerful. It was the same attack from before that had heavily injured Lin Fan to the point where he couldn't fight anymore. It seems to be the claw of a flood dragon, but I seem to be better at this than you. Let's decide this with one move. Su Chen opened his eyes and suddenly, his eyes were filled with lightning. Blood chi surged around his body and lightning surged. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, swallowing all the light in the surroundings. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. His hair suddenly danced in the wind. In an instant, a fierce god had awakened. Chi-La Su Chen formed a hand seal and attacked. The dark clouds in the sky rumbled, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. His 5 fingers bent slightly and a claw appeared. The space in front of the claw rippled and dazzling light flashed. Lightning wreaked havoc as if the void had exploded. The lightning energy was like a tsunami. The momentum was shocking. Then, this claw turned into a giant claw and directly collided with the void. At this moment, Su Chen's aura was incomparably fierce. This claw opened and closed, shaking the entire golden boulder. The void also surged. Under countless gazes, the 2 claw imprints collided. Rumble. This kind of contact caused a muffled sound to reverberate in the ears of some of the onlookers who were closer to it. The golden boulder was also wrapped in lightning. Lightning rushed into the sky and a terrifying energy surged. It was like a lightning hurricane sweeping through. It was incomparably terrifying. This kind of confrontation caused the expressions of the experts from the various large factions to change. They were all secretly shocked. Everything happened quickly and ended quickly. The lightning scattered and the energy dissipated. On the golden boulder, 2 figures, one big and one small, appeared. The 2 were only a few feet apart, but they had already stopped. Deng deng. Suddenly, Su Chen took 2 steps back and his face became even paler. Clearly, that attack just now had consumed a lot of energy. His right hand was slightly trembling and red and swollen. PFFF. At the same time, Yan Lin's huge body returned to normal. He spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered back a few steps. Faint red blood flowed out of his right hand. I lost. I knew I couldn't beat you. Yan Lin wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and unceremoniously stuffed the pill Su Chen had just given him into his mouth. With a silly smile, he looked at Su Chen and said, "You can continue. I'll wait for you below." As soon as he finished speaking, Yan Lin jumped down from the golden boulder. Even after going all out, he still lost. Yan Lin had long sensed that he was no match for his opponent. Being able to advance to this round, he was already very happy in his heart. Su Chen smiled faintly. He clenched his numb right hand and smiled bitterly to himself. At this moment, he was probably the only one who knew how strong Yan Lin was. "It's almost over." Naren Ruyu's voice reverberated coldly. Her skin emitted a holy light from inside out. She flapped her wings and floated in the air. Her holy aura flourished. Han Luyun narrowed his eyes. The beast shadows around him were ferocious, and his aura was monstrous. A long white whip quietly appeared in his hand. The long whip was covered in a white mist. It flickered like lightning and was as agile as a flood dragon. It emitted a terrifying aura that made one's soul tremble. When the long white whip appeared, it was like a flood dragon coiling in the air. It immediately danced in the wind and clouds. The energy in the surroundings seemed to be attracted by something. The wind and clouds surged, surrounding Han Luyun and forming a strange phenomenon above his head. Jade Dragon Soul Subduing Whip. Experts from the 5 sects and 3 factions suddenly exclaimed. It's actually the Jade Dragon Soul Subduing Whip. Many experts trembled. The Jade Dragon Soul Subduing Whip was not an ordinary item. It was almost at the level of a ritual tool. Rumor had it that it was made by a master craftsman from the Yutian Palace. The main material was a real dragon bone left behind from the ancient times. The day the whip was made, it almost caused a strange phenomenon in the world. It was born to suppress souls. Han Liuyun's status in the Yutian Palace isn't low. He actually has the Jade Dragon Soul Subduing Whip. someone said. The fact that the Yutian Palace could give the Jade Dragon Soul subduing whip to Han Luyun was enough to show his status in the Yutian Palace. However, no one found it strange. Based on Han Luyun's talent and strength, it was enough to be valued in the Yutian Palace. Roar! The whip was like a dragon, stirring up the wind and clouds, rushing toward Naren Ryu. It carried the power of heaven and earth, and its momentum was impressive. It was as if it could move mountains and seas. It could be seen with the naked eye that this attack reached Naren Ryu in an instant. However, when this terrifying attack was still a few feet away from Naren Ryu, the void rippled. With Naren Ryu as the center, a circle of dazzling divine aura appeared, enveloping her. The dragon-like whip brought about a terrifying attack that affected souls, but it was blocked in front of Naren Ryu. It seemed to be unable to advance any further. This scene caused countless eyes to be filled with disbelief. Han Luyun's expression changed. He formed a hand seal, and the power of the whip became even stronger. It was as if it had turned into a real dragon shadow. The ferocious beast shadow condensed by the remnant souls in front of him also burst out with a roar. Rumble! The terrifying power seemed to be able to destroy everything, but it was blocked in front of the divine light in front of Naren Ryu. It only made the light circle tremble, but it could not be broken. She actually condensed the holy ruler's protective chi. The experts from the 5 sects and 3 factions were shocked. The experts from the Yutian Palace were also shocked. What a strong holy ruler's protective chi. It can actually block Han Luyun's attack. There were also old experts in the crowd who saw through the clues, and they were shocked by Naren Ryu. At this moment, Han Luyun had used all of his trump cards. If he used all of his strength, he would be able to kill an ordinary 4th-level Yuan Zhen realm martial artist. However, he could not even break through Naren Ryu's defense. Han Luyun was terrifyingly strong. He was one of the best among his peers, but Naren Ryu was undoubtedly more terrifying. This is already your full power. Then it's time to end it. Naren Ryu's gaze was cold. She covered her body with the holy ruler's protective chi. The light was like a small sun. The wings on her back flapped, and then she formed a hand seal. Both of her hands stretched out at the same time, forming 2 hand seals, and slapped forward. Rumble! The void rumbled, and the divine aura rose and fell. The terrifying hand seals appeared in the void, and the mighty energy fluctuated. One hand crushed the whip, and the other crushed the giant beast shadow. When the two collided, the muffled sound was deafening. "Oh my God!" many people exclaimed, and their hearts jumped. This power was too strong. It could be seen with the naked eye that Han Luyun's attack was shattered inch by inch. Break! The holy ruler's protective chi enveloped Naren Ryu. At this moment she looked even more divine. It was as if the Son of God had descended, and could destroy everything. Han Luyun's expression changed. His attack was shattered. His opponent was too strong. Even at this moment, she still gave him an unfathomable feeling. Puff. Chapter 8:22. Han Luyun stood up with a pale face and blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. His aura was disordered as he spat out another mouthful of blood. Defeated! In the Yutian Palace, Gyue and Guanlan's eyes were filled with regret. With Han Luyun's strength, he was actually defeated so easily. Naren Ryu's strength was beyond their imagination. I've lost. On the Golden Boulder, Han Luyun turned around and left. He had no intention of continuing the battle. Han Luyun understood his own situation. At this moment, the other party still gave him an unfathomable feeling. He was already heavily injured and had already used his full strength. He didn't have the strength to continue the battle. His essence chi was already exhausted. If he continued the battle, he would only be in an even more miserable state. "Ha ha!" In the Holy Mountain, an expert laughed. Finally, there was something that could ease his aggrieved mood. To be able to defeat Han Luyun of the Yutian Palace, this was undoubtedly the first round to redeem the Holy Mountain's face. 8 people were fighting, and there were only 4 left. On the Golden Boulder, Mu Yao and Li Qingwei were also at the end of their battle. The golden light and remnant soul energy collided, and the radiance was dazzling. The golden winged rock's shadow and the remnant soul's shadow intertwined. Indistinctly, the 2 women's figures could be seen wrapped in the golden light and remnant soul energy. 2 peerless beauties were in an intense battle. Their figures were graceful and exquisite, and their legs were long and straight. Their waists were soft as if they were boneless. Even in the middle of a battle, these 2 peerless beauties still had an incomparable beauty. Many young men's eyes burned with passion. Boom! A woo! Su Yi and Xiaoxi Jun's battle had also reached an intense stage. Xiaoxi Jun's current aura was much stronger than when she fought Feng Qingnong. Her skin emitted a mystical light from inside out. Her aura shook the heavens and earth, causing many experts' expressions to change. Beasts were everywhere, and her aura was vigorous. Xiaoxi Jun was barehanded, but her aura was incomparably shocking. Wave after wave of powerful attacks swept towards Su Yi. This was the method of the Beast Emperor sect. The people of the Beast Emperor sect rarely used weapons. They cultivated their own bodies. #GQ. Su Yi remained calm the entire time. He did not gain the upper hand, nor was he suppressed. He could conceal some of the Heaven Fei Ancient Sutra's aura as he fought Lord Xiaoxi. The more they fought, the more shocked Su Yi became. Su Yi was indeed terrifyingly powerful. Even with the toughness of his body, he couldn't gain any advantage over Xiao Sijuan. Could it be that Xiao Sijuan's body was stronger than his? How many people would dare to compete with a disciple of the Beast Emperor sect in terms of physical strength? Not to mention, Huang Xiaolong's body had already been tempered by the secret art of the Beast Emperor sect. At that moment, for some unknown reason, Su Yi's heart stirred as he watched Lord Xiaoxi's attacks. He gained new insights into the Heaven Fei Ancient Sutra. The attacks of the Beast Emperor sect caused many images to appear in Su Yi's mind. Su Yi cultivated the Heaven Fei Ancient Sutra. Although he had succeeded, the Heaven Fei Ancient Sutra was very vast. There were many places that he wanted to comprehend thoroughly. It wasn't an easy task. Su Yi's comprehension ability was very strong. There was no doubt about that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to cultivate the Origin Supreme technique. However, Su Yi lacked many other things. For example, the experiences passed down by the experts of the previous generations. Rumble. Xiaoxi Jun finally found an opportunity. She sensed that Su Yi seemed to be absent-minded for a moment. Her messy hair and clothes fluttered in the wind, and the primordial qi in her body surged violently. She instantly formed a hand seal with both hands, and a resplendent shadow of a flood dragon rushed out along with rolling demonic qi. Roar. The flood dragon roared, as if it was alive. Demonic aura filled the entire void. This was the heavenly dragon's energy. Not long ago, Lord Xiaoxi had defeated Feng Qingnong with the heavenly dragon's energy. The flood dragon roared as it rushed out, causing the void to rumble. Spatial ripples were blasted apart. Su Yi sensed the mighty aura as a vortex of light surged out from his deep eyes. A terrifying aura emanated with an ancient charm that suppressed the surroundings. A palm seal struck out in all directions. This was the ancient crimson seal. However, Su Yi had concealed a lot of it. Nevertheless, its might was not reduced by much. The surrounding barbaric Fey mounts seemed to sense something as they roared for no reason. They were secretly afraid and were affected. The two collided. The massive flood dragon shadow seemed to engulf Su Yi. Immediately, a dull thud resounded above the golden boulder. Rumble. Light surged into the clouds as the void rumbled. Strong winds howled. Everything was too horrifying. The terrifying Yuan Qi winds were like raging waves crashing against the shore as they spread out in all directions. The flood dragon shadow was shattered, but the billowing demonic aura slammed into Su Yi's body. Su Yi didn't dare to be careless. He had already noticed Feng Qingnong's defeat. However, such a surge of demonic aura still passed through Su Yi's defenses and entered Su Yi's body. However, this demonic aura was mostly blocked by Su Yi's Vajra body. However, the strange demonic aura that entered his body caused Su Yi to stagger back uncontrollably. This demonic aura caused Yi Su's blood to churn, after which it surged into Su Yi's dantian. Not good. This scene caused the faces of Palace Master Gue, Vice Palace Master Guanlan, and Merciless West to change drastically. They knew about the Beast Emperor Sec's heavenly dragon energy. They knew how terrifying and strange it was. Su Yi was struck by the heavenly dragon energy. The consequences were unimaginable. However, at this moment, no one knew that something strange was happening in Su Yi's body. Rumble. Just as the demonic aura surged into Su Yi's dantian exploded with a dazzling red light. A domineering and destructive aura surged. This was the power of the Great Void Spirit Sea. This was the aura of the Supreme Origin Technique. In an instant, it destroyed the demonic aura. You've been struck by my heavenly dragon energy. If you continue to fight, it will destroy your foundation. If you're lucky, you'll go berserk. If you're lucky, your meridians will be destroyed. Now you've already lost. Shaoxi Lord was overjoyed. This was the heavenly dragon energy. It was his trump card. Whoever was struck by the heavenly dragon energy would definitely be defeated. This Bawang Sec's Yi Su was too strong. Shaoxi Lord was never a careless person. He was worried and wanted to suppress the former completely. Without stopping, Shaoxi Lord's aura surged and formed the shadow of a strange beast that looked like a dragon or a tiger. It was incomparably huge and filled with demonic aura. It enveloped his entire body as though he had transformed into the shadow of a strange beast. Roar! Soon, the huge strange beast shadow became corporeal and merged with Shaoxi Lord. Instantly, it pressed down on Su Yi. It raised its huge claws and slapped toward Su Yi. This is Shaoxi Lord's true trump card. Chapter 8:23. The defeated Feng Qingnong had already been supported to the side of the three origin sect. Looking at the golden boulder in the middle of the square, his heart trembled. Compared to the heavenly dragon's energy, this seemed to be Shaoxi Lord's final trump card. This Bawang Sec's Yi Su seems to be lacking in experience. No one doubted Su Yi's strength. However, many of the experts present could tell that after being struck by the heavenly dragon's energy, this Yi Su was about to lose. The attack of a saint beast was too strong. Wherever the shadow of the beast passed, it destroyed everything. A storm of energy swept across the sky. Everyone's hearts were on edge. Suddenly, the scene became incomparably strange. That terrifying palm imprint suddenly stopped a foot away from Su Yi's head. This scene caused everyone to be flabbergasted. The terrifying attack didn't suppress Yi Su of the Bawang sect. MWL. First. However, for some reason, Lord Shaoxi and the gigantic shadow of the strange beast suddenly paused for a moment. Her fierce eyes, which were as bright as the sun, suddenly changed color greatly. That Yi Su doesn't seem to be normal. Wasn't he struck by the heavenly dragon's energy? Someone exclaimed in surprise. At this moment, Yi Su's body underwent a shocking change. His aura fluctuated as an ancient aura spread out. With his body as the center, the aura swept out, as though he wasn't affected by the heavenly dragon's energy at all. Su Yi's aura soared to the heavens, and in that short instant, a red light rose from his body like a rising sun, causing the surroundings of the vast square to become dazzling. The red light surged like an erupting volcano. Boom! Heaven and earth rumbled as the golden boulder swept across the square. Light filled the sky as an oppressive aura spread out in all directions like a storm. Under the shocked gazes of countless people, the scarlet light around Su Yi's body surged as a gigantic scarlet tiger appeared. It looked as though it was about to pounce on Su Yi. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the surroundings, emitting an incomparable oppressive aura. This terrifying aura directly suppressed Shaoxi Lord's ferocious demonic qi. At this moment, the roars of many beasts in the surroundings were like thunderous roars. They were intimidated by the pressure and began to prostrate and hiss. It's this technique again. It seems to be more than 10 times stronger than the last time. Among the Holy Mountains lineup, Elder Icebot, Quang Guilin, Ouyang Yuanfeng, and the others were shocked. Ouyang Jinwei had been defeated by Su Yi's method in the past. Not much time had passed, but Bing Cauldron and the others could clearly sense that Su Yi's technique was more than 10 times stronger than before. The experts from the Beast Emperor sect had smiles on their faces as they thought that victory was within their grasp. However, the smiles on their faces were instantly replaced by looks of astonishment. At this moment, they could all feel how terrifying the aura on Isu's body was. After being hit by the heavenly dragon energy, Isu was actually not affected at all. This was too shocking. Old Man Gue, Vice Palace Master Guanlan, and Merciless West's expressions changed one after another. They were originally worried, but in an instant their faces were filled with shock. Roar! Everything happened in a flash. The tiger's roar resounded like the rumbling of thunder, deafening everyone's ears. The ferocious tiger's scarlet light soared into the sky, and an ancient aura accompanied by a terrifying aura shot up into the sky. The ferocious tiger pounced on its prey with terrifying might. Wherever the tiger's claw passed, the scarlet clouds would surge in the sky. The ancient aura was like the undulating waves of the sea, capable of suppressing the heavens and earth. Everyone's eyes were filled with indescribable shock. This aura was too strong, and it caused the hearts of everyone to palpitate. In the thousands of mountain peaks, many cultivators who weren't strong enough couldn't help but feel their souls trembling. This aura came from the heavens and earth, and it affected the energy of the heavens and earth. Crackle, the tiger's claw split the sky, and it directly tore through the void as it landed on the gigantic shadow of the Holy Beast Emperor, causing the demonic qi on the shadow to dissipate. In an instant, the shadow of the gigantic shadow shattered inch by inch. Lord Shaoxi's figure appeared, and her expression changed drastically. She hurriedly retreated, and her body shone with a light as she erupted with a tyrannical strength. The tiger's claw descended, destroying everything in its path, and finally landed on Lord Shaoxi's chest. Lord Shaoxi retreated, but she didn't manage to dodge it completely. Her clothes were torn apart, and 5 deep wounds appeared on her chest. Her flesh was lacerated, and fresh blood spurted out. The shadow of the ferocious tiger dissipated, and Su Yi's figure appeared. His figure expanded rapidly in the eyes of Lord Shaoxi, and his fist was as fast as lightning, landing directly on her body. Bang! Following a muffled sound, Lord Shaoxi's body was sent flying, and she violently slammed into the ground several zhang away. At this moment, when Lord Shaoxi was sent flying, the hearts of the experts from the Beast Emperor sect trembled violently, and their hearts skipped a beat. Lord Shaoxi, the greatest hope of the Beast Emperor sect, had been destroyed. The Beast Emperor sect had no chance of entering the top 4. Lord Shaoxi landed on the ground, and her hair was disheveled. Her face was pale to the extreme. Pooh! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Shaoxi Lord's body was drenched in blood. On his originally profound face, the expression in his sparkling eyes had been completely replaced by shock and astonishment. She was already severely injured, and she no longer had the strength to continue fighting. Seeing how Chu Zhanghuan couldn't even withstand a single blow, Lord Shaoxi had a premonition that she was going to lose. However, She couldn't believe that Isu of the Bawang sect was actually unharmed after being struck by her heavenly dragon's might. Goo goo, many people sucked in a breath of cold air, and they were deeply shocked. Although the majority of the people felt that Isu would win in the battle between Lord Shaoxi and Lord Shaoxi, the fact that Chu Zhonghuan of the Holy Mountain was killed was proof of Isu's absolute strength. But after witnessing the might of the battle, the hearts of the spectators surged with shock. It was too shocking, and it surpassed his peers by too much. In the end, there were still two people fighting. Mu Yao and Li Qingwei were locked in a stalemate. In fact, not much time had passed. Everyone hoped that this round would end quickly, and they were giving it their all. Mu Yao was no exception. She used all her strength from the beginning and used the power of her bloodline, demonizing into a golden-winged rock. However, Li Qingwei was very strong. She was a soul controller with half a step into the heaven-rank soul quality. She was the #1 person of the younger generation of the Blue Cloud sect. Although she was young, her strength was abnormally terrifying, and she was faintly suppressing Mu Yao. However, Mu Yao was too strong. Although her cultivation level was not as high as Li Qingwei's, the golden-winged rock's body was abnormally strong. Even the soul controller's soul attack, which everyone feared, had an advantage. Coupled with the strength of her body, although Li Qingwei had the upper hand, she couldn't do anything. Sensing that the others had successfully advanced, Li Qingwei's eyes flashed. Her white dress fluttered, and her aura rose to the peak. The remnant souls she attracted were even stronger. Chapter 8:24. Coo! The golden rock screeched and flapped its golden wings continuously. Strong winds blew and formed a golden vortex that rushed forward. Everything seemed to distort the void. Wind and thunder were incessant and golden light filled the sky. Mu Yao flapped its wings and tried to break free from the restraints of the waves. Strong winds blew and raised waves that scattered in all directions. It was as if a golden rain of light was falling in all directions. Around the golden rock, hurricane-like golden storms surged. Layers of sharp golden light overlapped and formed hundreds of phantoms. "What a terrifying golden rock!" countless voices exclaimed. At this moment, the rock that Mu Yao transformed into was too domineering and fierce. It was faintly discernible in the golden hurricane. It was as if a rock had descended to the 9 heavens with a sharp pressure that could move mountains and seas. The clouds moved in all directions, and the void above the golden boulder was also vast and mighty. The golden rock race lives up to its name. Everyone was shocked. Even the elders and experts of the various major forces had their gazes filled with shock at this moment. And this was only a demonized golden-winged Great Pung. If the real golden-winged Great Pung descended, how powerful would it be? The Golden Rock bloodline lives up to its name. However, you are not a real golden rock, and your cultivation level is not high enough. Li Qingwei spoke. Her white dress fluttered, occasionally revealing her snow-white jade-like skin. Her temperament was untainted by dust and smoke. She was as ethereal as an immortal. Her hair fluttered and her figure was graceful. Coupled with her beautiful face, she was a peerless beauty. As her voice fell, Li Qingwei continued to summon the remnant soul phantoms. The waves in the sky suddenly surged. Accompanied by the power of heaven and earth, strange runes appeared as if they were evolving. In the end, in front of the human-shaped remnant soul phantoms, the boundless water turned into a giant sword made of water. It emitted a terrifying sword chi that seemed to carry the power of the ocean. It directly slashed the golden rock phantoms. At this moment, Li Qingwei's aura also exploded to the extreme, far surpassing Mu Yao's. Mu Yao's expression changed when she saw the golden eyes of the golden-winged rock's phantom. With a serious expression, Mu Yao wanted to avoid it, but she was powerless. This was a kind of cultivation suppression. Li Qingwei's cultivation level was far above hers, and she was unable to overcome it. The sword light fell and turned into thousands of sword shadows on the back of the golden-winged rock, destroying the golden light. The golden-winged rock's phantom trembled, and the golden light finally shattered. Mu Yao's beautiful figure was revealed. She spat out blood as her beautiful figure smashed into the giant golden rock. Thud thud on the golden boulder, Mu Yao couldn't help but stagger back a few more steps. Her pale lips were dyed red by the faint golden blood, adding a kind of tragic beauty. Everything around Li Qingwei also calmed down. Her face was pale, and there was a faint trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. At this moment, all the battles had calmed down, and the surroundings were completely silent. At this moment, all eyes were on the two peerless beauties, and they were all shocked. "I've lost." Looking at Li Qingwei, Mu Yao's eyes lit up. After a few breaths, she calmed down. She knew her own situation. She had already lost. If we were at the same cultivation level, I might not have been able to defeat you. Li Qingwei looked at Mu Yao and said, if they were at the same cultivation level, she might not have been able to defeat Mu Yao. Now that she had won, she had the advantage in terms of cultivation level. Mu Yao looked at Li Qingwei, then smiled and said, a loss is a loss. However, there will be a chance to fight again in the future. Mu Yao leaped down from the huge golden rock after her voice sounded. However, the light in her eyes turned to look at the seemingly ordinary figure on the huge golden rock at the side. During the battle just now, she had felt a clear sense of familiarity with that aura. That aura, that power, it was too familiar. Mu Yao stared at the ordinary-looking young man, as if she wanted to see through him, but she really couldn't see anything. Did she discover something? Su Yi felt Mu Yao's gaze. Although his face didn't show it, his heart trembled. Did Mu Yao already have some suspicions? On each of the 4 giant rocks, there was only one figure standing. Looking at the 4 young figures, 3 men and 1 woman, the entire audience had witnessed with their own eyes what was called monstrous talent. Even the experts and elders of the various major forces were shocked by this. Without a doubt, the young geniuses that had emerged in this sacred martial arts assembly had surpassed the past. They were all abnormally strong. However, among the 5 sects and 3 factions, other than the Blue Cloud sect, the other mountain sects were all very regretful. Among the top 4, only the Blue Cloud sect had a place. The other mountain sects were all defeated. What was even more unexpected was that there were actually 2 unknown fellows that had entered the top 4. Bing Fu, Quang Guilin, and the others from the Sacred Mountain were even more displeased. Isu and Su Chun had both entered the top 4. This made them unhappy. Latest. Chapter F Section Rex Previous /CV1. The bell sounded melodiously. Ouyang Yuanfeng once again stepped into the void and announced the start of the next round. His voice was mixed with Yuan Qi, but at this moment, it was covered up by the lively clamor. The remaining 4 people on the giant golden rocks caused the entire audience to boil. At this moment, even Su Yi's name, Isu, was shouted by many young people. Boom! The 4 giant golden rocks shone once again. Mist filled the air, and a divine aura wrapped around them as they rotated. Then, the 4 giant golden rocks moved and rotated. When they came into contact with each other, they condensed into 2 even larger rocks. They faced each other from a distance on both sides of the vast square. The 2 golden boulders were like 2 small golden plazas, standing tall in the vast square. On one of the giant golden rocks, an extraordinary young figure and a graceful fairy-like figure stood opposite each other. They were Naren Ryu and Li Qingwei. On the other side of the golden boulder, Su Yi and Su Chen were facing each other. When Su Yi and Su Chen looked at each other, they both revealed helpless and bitter smiles. Li Qingwei frowned slightly. She had to face Naren Ryu. This was one of the people she was most unwilling to face. Seeing that you're a woman, you can surrender. Naren Ryu stood there quietly. The light in her eyes was much more restrained. They were clear and bottomless. Her skin was as translucent as jade, and her long black hair hung down to her shoulders. She was suffused with a faint light as she looked at Li Qingwei. I know you're very strong, but there is no one in the Blue Cloud sect who surrenders without a fight. Li Qingwei's red lips parted, her voice moving. Her large eyes were beautiful, and her beauty could topple cities. At this moment, Li Qingwei stood on the giant golden rock. Her grace and beauty made countless young women feel ashamed of their inferiority. They simply couldn't compare. You're not weak. You have a quasi-heaven-grade soul, but unfortunately, it's not a true heaven-grade soul. It's not enough to fight with me. Chapter 825. Then let's give it a try. Li Qingwei's voice was soft. Her white dress fluttered slightly, revealing her snow-white skin. The aura on her body began to surge, reaching its peak. Her glabella glowed and her soul power surged. Naren Ruyu was silent, but the look in her eyes became more and more oppressive. They were like two dazzling lightning bolts, and a sacred aura filled the air. Under her purple robe, her figure was tall and slender. She had an indescribable elegance and extraordinary aura. Whoosh! The power of the remnant soul spread out. Li Qingwei used all of her strength. Her black hair fluttered in the wind, condensing into a human-shaped remnant soul phantom. Giant waves of the boundless waters surged towards Naren Ryu. There was no doubt that Li Qingwei had used her full strength. The void rumbled, and under the pressure of her soul power, the souls of many onlookers trembled. Not bad, but it's not enough. Naren Ruyu was still indifferent. The Yuan Qi wings behind her stretched out again. Under the sacred aura, she was like a descendant of God. The misty light shone brightly, and a handprint shot out, directly shattering the surging wave. In an instant, the two of them clashed fiercely, causing countless gazes to tremble. I didn't expect to meet you. Su Chen's gaze shifted from the battle between Naren Ryu and Li Qingwei. He looked at Su Yi with a wry smile. When he fought with this guy, he didn't use his full strength because he wanted to take first place in the final battle of the Sacred Martial Assembly. But now, the two of them were about to meet in the final round. We can fight to our heart's content. Su Yi smiled. They didn't use their full strength in the battle, but now that they met, they had to fight to their heart's content. Su Chen looked at Su Yi, then intentionally or unintentionally looked at the battle between Naren Ryu and Li Qingwei. Finally, he asked Su Yi, no matter who wins, we will meet our final opponent. So, we don't need to let others take advantage of us. What do you think? Su Yi's eyes flickered when he heard this, intentionally or unintentionally glancing at the battle between Naren Ryu and Li Qingwei. He asked Su Chen, you mean to say that we'll decide the victor in one move? Ha! Su Chen laughed. He was secretly shocked. This fellow had actually seen through his intentions with a single glance. Su Chen had some confidence in himself. His final goal was to become the champion of the Sacred Martial Assembly. However, Su Chen was very clear that in the battle between Li Qingwei and Naren Ryu, the winner would undoubtedly be Naren Ryu. There was no doubt that Naren Ryu was no pushover. So, the less energy they consumed in this round, the greater their advantage in the next round. Deciding the victor in one move was undoubtedly the least energy consumption. How about we use the simplest and most direct method to decide the victor in one move? Su Chen asked, looking at Su Yi. Tell me. Su Yi's eyes flickered. He knew what Su Chen meant. No matter who won, they would have to face their next opponent. Without a doubt, their next opponent would be Naren Ryu. In this round, the less energy they consumed, the better. Deciding the victor in one move was undoubtedly the best method. I don't know how many trump cards you have, but in any battle, if you can last until the end, it's a competition of true strength. True strength always comes from oneself, from the body. I have an advantage in terms of physical strength. As far as I know, your physical body is also very strong, so it's not considered an advantage. Su Chen stared at Su Yi as he spoke. As he spoke, his expression gradually turned serious. You mean to use your body as the foundation to decide the victor in one move? A+CXE Original Chapter NS Section G. Su Yi raised his eyebrows. It turned out that Su Chen wanted to use his own strength to decide the victor in one move. It was the simplest and most direct method. That's right. Using my body as the foundation to decide the victor in one move. Su Chen condensed Su Yi. His expression was very serious as he said, but I have to remind you that I have never used my true cultivation. It won't be easy for you to defeat me. Deciding the victor in one move was the simplest and most direct method. Su Yi stared at Su Chen. There was a faint fighting spirit in his eyes. This was the most direct proof. Su Chen's strength was unfathomable. Su Yi had long known that. However, Su Yi was still confident in his own strength. The body of the guardian deity had been tempered 7 times by the great void spirit sea. This was what Su Yi relied on. Of course, Su Yi was not careless. If they were at the same cultivation level, Su Yi would not be worried at all. However, Su Chen's strength was unfathomable. Su Yi estimated that Su Chen's true cultivation level was not below Chu Zhanghuan's. He was at the peak of LV3 Yuan Zhen realm, while Su Yi had yet to reach LV3 Yuan Zhen realm. The gap between them was too big. All right, let's decide the victor in one move. However, Su Yi did not hesitate. Fighting spirit surged in his eyes. I know you have been hiding your strength. Show me your full strength. Su Chen's voice fell. The clear eyes on his handsome face became more and more dazzling, revealing his confidence. From his tall and slender figure, a bolt of lightning instantly enveloped Su Chen. A vigorous aura swept out. His body's elegant and vigorous primordial qi suddenly rose. Boom! In an instant, the surrounding void surged. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The aura of lightning spread across half the sky. The terrifying aura rushed to the heavens. The entire golden boulder seemed to be covered by lightning. The earth shook and the mountains shook. It was extremely terrifying. Su Chen is at LV4 Yuan Zhen realm. He's actually at LV4 Yuan Zhen realm. This is monstrous. When the aura from Su Chen's body rushed to the heavens, the 5 sects, 3 factions, Saint Mountain, Jutian Palace and other major sects were stunned. This was the aura of a LV4 Yuan Zhen realm martial artist. Among the major sects, those who had reached the peak of LV2 Yuan Zhen realm were the prodigies of the prodigies. Han Luyun and the other LV3 Yuan Zhen realm martial artists were already inconceivable. They were monstrous talents. As for Su Chen, he wasn't very old. When he revealed that he was at the 4th level of Yuan Zhen realm, all the experts present were dumbfounded. This kind of talent was monstrous among monstrous talents. He had surpassed the major sects, even Saint Mountain's Chu Zhanghuan and Jutian Palace's Han Luyun. What is this Su Chen's background? At this moment, the experts of the major sects could not help but be concerned. What was Su Chen's background? With such monstrous talent, no one would believe that he was a true rogue cultivator. Oh my God, 4th level Yuan Zhen stage. Unbelievable! Su Chen is going to win. Bawang Sec's Isu is going to lose. Cries of surprise could be heard from the mountains. A level 4 Yuan Zhen stage martial artist was simply too shocking. Chapter 826. Su Yi's killing of Chu Zhanghuan had shocked the entire sacred martial assembly. It was still vivid in everyone's minds. However, Chu Zhanghuan was only at the peak of the 3rd level of Yuan Zhen realm, while Su Chen was at the 4th level of Yuan Zhen realm. Every single one of the geniuses present had their heads held high with trembling eyes. Su Chen's cultivation at the 4th level of Yuan Zhen realm was enough to shock even these proud geniuses. 4th level of Yuan Zhen realm. Sensing Su Chen's aura, Su Yi's eyes trembled. Su Yi guessed that this was Su Chen's trump card. 4th level of Yuan Zhen realm. This guy was truly terrifying. 4th level of Yuan Zhen realm indeed made Su Yi's heart heavy. There was a huge gap between the 3rd level of Yuan Zhen realm and the 4th level of Yuan Zhen realm. It was difficult for ordinary people to overcome it. However, Su Yi was only at the 9th level of Yuan Zhen realm. He hadn't even stepped into the true Yuan Zhen realm. At this moment, Su Yi couldn't help but feel slight regret in his heart. I was a little too arrogant. Su Chen is too terrifying. If I utilized other methods, then perhaps I would be able to resist Su Chen. However, I was definitely too arrogant to rely on a single move to decide the outcome of the battle. Su Chen stared at Su Yi. His dazzling lightning eyes stared straight at Su Yi. Like a young god of thunder, he wanted to destroy all his enemies. His voice rumbled like thunder as he said, "Determine victory with one move. Give it your all." Boom. When the last word was spoken, Su Chen moved. He took a step forward and the lightning and aura on his body surged at the same time. Resplendent lightning rippled as he punched out. Amidst the rumbling lightning, the golden boulder was densely covered in lightning. Su Chen's fist was like a ball of lightning as it blasted towards Su Yi. In an instant, the lightning pierced through the golden boulder and spread out in all directions like a sea of lightning. At this moment, Su Chen's body was densely covered in lightning. When he raised his hand, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. He was like a young god of thunder. He had a domineering aura that could destroy everything. With an unparalleled momentum, he wanted to crush Su Yi. Too strong. In the face of such an attack, Vice Palace Master Guanlan, Merciless West, and the others in Commandant Palace frowned. They could all feel that such an attack was too overbearing. The two of them want to decide the victor in one move. Elder Gue couldn't help but speak out, and his eyes secretly jumped. He had seen a lot of young geniuses, and he had also seen many young people with monstrous talent. However, the youths that had emerged from the sacred martial assembly this time were too abnormally strong, and their talents were too terrifying. Everyone underestimated Su Chen. He's the biggest dark horse. All the experts present cried out in alarm. They had always thought that the Bawang Sex Yi Su was the biggest dark horse of the sacred martial assembly. But now, they couldn't help but realize that they had underestimated Su Chen. Su Chen was the biggest dark horse of this sacred martial assembly. The lightning was like a tide, and the terrifying aura seemed to want to destroy everything. The lightning ball-like punch had already arrived in front of Su Yi in an instant, and the mighty lightning swept in all directions. Then let's decide the victor in one move. At this moment, everyone's eyes jumped, and they were worried for Su Yi. Su Yi shouted loudly. In an instant, Su Yi's skin emitted a special light, giving people a feeling of perfection, translucency, and fullness. At the same time, the vital qi whirlpool in Su Yi's dantian started to move hazily, as if it was emitting a kind of lustrous glow. There was a rumbling sound, and the surging vital qi seemed to be setting off huge waves, emitting a sonorous sound, resonating with the heaven and earth and emitting a radiant glow. Su Yi had no way to retreat, and he could only use all his strength. He used the Origin Supreme technique, and the great void spirit sea moved at full force. He waved his fist to meet the attack, and with a boom, he punched out with all his strength. His fist was enveloped in resplendent light, and a terrifying power surged out like an erupting volcano, emitting a dazzling light. Above the fist, there was a clear sound of wind and lightning. It was like the rumbling of thunder. This punch caused the surrounding heaven and earth to tremble. It was as if an overlord had awoken, as if an emperor had descended, and a massive pressure resounded. Whoa! When such a punch appeared, the pressure emanated. There were beastly roars that sounded like thunder, and the barbaric Fae truly prostrated themselves in worship. Although this was Su Yi's overlord fist. To prevent his identity from being exposed, he had concealed it with the aura of the Heaven Fae Ancient Sutra, but its might was not reduced. Under countless gazes, the two fists instantly collided like meteorite. Rumble! Lightning was shattered, transforming into a rain of lightning. A powerful force swept out like a hurricane, stirring up stormy waves. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Countless people were alarmed. The two youths were too terrifying. That's not right. Why do I feel like the Bawang Sek's Isu can match them? The Bawang Sek's Isu's punch was just as terrifying. The pressure was even greater. Exclamations resounded. The golden boulder's surroundings were already covered in lightning, making it impossible to look straight at it. However, based on what they saw at the end, some experts sensed that the Bawang Sek's Isu was just as powerful. What happened just now seemed to be his true strength. Many experts from the large factions present stood up from their seats and stared intently at the golden boulder, hoping to see everything clearly. Originally, the experts and elders from the large sects felt regretful that Isu and Su Chun had entered the semi-finals, but at this moment, none of them had such thoughts. They originally felt that if their disciples were lucky, they might have been able to enter the semi-finals. Or perhaps the Bawang Sek's Isu and Su Chun would have been eliminated if they had encountered other tyrannical opponents at the beginning. However, just from the attacks of the two young men in the field, it was enough for them to clearly know that no matter who won or lost in the battle, they would still be stronger than the disciples of their mountain gate. Xiaoxi Jun, Feng Qingnong, Chen Yanhuan, and the others were all heaven-defying geniuses. However, if they were to face the Bawang Sek's Isu and Su Chun, there was a clear gap between them. At this moment, the two youths on the golden boulder, who wanted to decide the victor in one move, were truly monstrous geniuses. Both of them had terrifying talent that could shake people's hearts. It seems a little familiar. Somewhere in the crowd, there was a group of extraordinary young people. They were the disciples of the Xinjian Gate. Situ Muyang, Ryugan River, Gong Qi, and the others looked at the figures on the golden boulder that were engulfed by lightning and wind with astonishment. In the formation of the Divine Sword sect, Elder Su Quanga's old face was staring at the golden boulder. Unknowingly, a look of astonishment appeared in his eyes. "Hey, did you notice that the Bawang Sek's Isu's aura seems a little familiar?" Chapter 8:27. Su Yi had concealed his aura, but how could he conceal it completely in such a battle? Even the slightest trace of his aura would be detected by these experts. Rumble, on the golden boulder, a rumbling sound echoed endlessly as a terrifying aura soared into the sky. Even Naren Ryu and Li Qingwei, who were in the midst of their battle, could not help but look sideways in shock. Everything gradually calmed down. Under countless nervous gazes on the golden boulder, the two figures had separated, each standing a few feet apart. Who won? Everyone's eyes were glued to the arena, most concerned about who won and who lost. At this moment, every expert's gaze was filled with curiosity, prying, wanting to know the answer. "I was careless, I lost." Su Qin raised his eyes and looked at Su Yi. His eyes flickered with shock, surprise, and a slightly complicated expression. Su Yi raised his eyes, a trace of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. He looked at Su Qin and said, "You didn't lose." "You didn't lose either, but if we were at the same cultivation level, I'm afraid I wouldn't be your opponent, so I lost." A bitter smile appeared on Su Qin's face, along with a trace of shock. He was the clearest about what kind of strength he had encountered. Su Qin was also the clearest about Isu's true cultivation level. This guy had not even stepped into the Yuan Zhen realm. He was only at the peak of the 9th level Yuan spirit realm. As for himself, although he was at the 4th level Yuan Zhen realm, he was not truly defeated, but he did not gain any advantage. To him, this was already a crushing defeat. If that guy was also at the 4th level Yuan Zhen realm, he could imagine the consequences. I'll leave the next one to you. I didn't take first place in the Sacred Martial Assembly, but I hope you can win. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Chen turned around and jumped off the golden boulder. No one noticed that the moment Su Chen turned around, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, dyeing his white robe red. Looking at Su Chen's back, Su Yi's eyes moved. That move just now should have been a draw. Fortunately, he had the advantage of the great void spirit sea and the body of the Vajra. If they had continued to fight, it was hard to tell who would have won. However, if they were at the same cultivation level, Su Yi was really confident. With the advantages of the great void divine sea and the body of Vajra, he should be invincible among those at the same cultivation level. Isu actually won. Too powerful. It's too abnormal. It's inconceivably strong. Did you guys sense it? That Isu seems to be only at the 9th level of the origin spirit realm. The whole arena was in an uproar. Everyone was talking about it in disbelief. Isu of the Bawang sect had won again. Someone saw through Su Yi's true cultivation. He was only at the 9th level essence spirit realm, but he actually defeated Su Chen, who was at the 4th level essence spirit realm. This was too inconceivable. Unbelievable! This Bawang sect's Isu has monstrous talent. Experts from the various sects and clans were also shocked and exclaimed in shock. Although they could see that the two of them were about the same level, it was clear who was stronger when the Bawang sect's Isu contended against Su Chen, who was at the 4th level essence spirit realm with his cultivation at the 9th level essence spirit realm. Such talent was definitely monstrous among monstrous geniuses. This guy is a little too strong. In Yutian Palace, Vice Palace Master Guanlan was tongue-tied. Merciless West's face was calm, but his hands were clenched into fists. Then, a faint smile appeared on Merciless West's face. It was a slightly bitter smile. Su Yi had won. According to the rules, he had entered the top 2. According to the original bet, he had to truly join the mysterious Bawang sect. On the golden boulder at the side, the battle between Naren Ryu and Li Qingwei was still ongoing. Li Qingwei had already used all her trump cards and went all out. Her body was covered in armor condensed from Yuan Qi. It was sparkling and translucent, tightly wrapping around her seductive body. It was a moving beauty. Rumble, Li Qingwei's hand seals continued to condense. Her face was solemn as she continued to summon the remnant soul shadow. Waves surged in the sky, accompanied by the power of heaven and earth. Strange runes appeared, and the boundless water in front of the human-shaped remnant soul shadow turned into a giant sword with green light. Terrifying sword chi swept out, as if it carried the power of the ocean, and slashed towards Naren Ryu. That's all you have. Let's end this. Naren Ryu's expression was still cold and indifferent. It was as if the monstrous soul pressure did not affect her at all. The aura on her body fluctuated, and a giant hand seal was shot out. Suddenly, in front of the hand seal, a terrifying divine power set off a mist that covered the sky. It shook the sky and covered the square, causing everyone to change color. The green sword light was monstrous, and it slashed down violently, colliding with the hand seal. The sky was filled with turbulent energy, and the void rumbled. Spatial ripples exploded, and the void trembled constantly. The dazzling light made it difficult for people to look straight at it. In the midst of the turbulent energy, Li Qingwei was sent flying. She spat out large mouthfuls of blood, and the dark red blood stained her pale lips, adding a touch of poignant beauty. Her face was completely pale. The experts of the Blue Cloud sect watched from afar, and their gazes were somewhat helpless. This result seemed to have long been within their expectations. However, they were still shocked. Naren Ryu's strength had actually reached such a level. Li Qingwei got up and did not say a word. The Yuan Qi armor on her body disappeared. She glanced at Narenryu, and slowly walked down the golden boulder. She had already lost and was completely powerless to continue fighting. Narenryu landed on the ground. The light on her body was still faintly discernible, and her hair danced in the wind. Wang! A bell rang. Ouyang Yuanfeng's figure leaped out and stepped into the void. He looked at the two remaining youths in the square with a complicated gaze, but he had to announce the results. Congratulations to the Sacred Mountains Narenryu, Bawang Sex Yi Su for winning and advancing to the next round. Boom! Before Ouyang Yuanfeng's voice fell, the whole square was in an uproar. The noise soared to the sky, and countless people waved their arms and shouted. Narenryu! Yi Su! Countless young men and women shouted one after another, drowning out everything. It was deafening. Narenryu, the Sacred Mountain's chosen, a true genius. She had always been the goal and idol of all young people. Her identity as the Sacred Mountain's chosen had already proven everything. However, Yi Su, who had come from a nobody, defeated Ouyang Jinwei, killed Chu Zhanghuan, defeated Lord Shaoxi, Su Chun, and other geniuses, had completely conquered the whole square. Compared to Narenryu, she was a lofty existence, an existence that all young people could only look at but could not reach. Yi Su, on the other hand, had fought all the way. To the spectators present, it was as if he had walked out of their group. This was the first time they saw someone among them who could be so close to such an unreachable existence. Chapter 828. Looking at the cheers for Yi Su rising one after another, the experts of the Holy Mountains lineup looked quite unhappy. Ouyang Yuanfeng's gaze was also not very good. He waved his hand and signaled everyone to be quiet. Only then did the shouting and waving of arms gradually die down. The Sacred Martial Assembly has reached the final round. Congratulations to the Bawang Sex Yi Su for reaching the final battle. If he can defeat the Holy Mountain's Narenryu, he will be able to enter the Holy Mountain and cultivate with the Holy Mountain's saints and saintesses. Ouyang Yuanfeng's voice was mixed with Yuan Qi, turning into sound waves that reverberated around the void. Go to the Holy Mountain and cultivate with the Holy Mountain's saints and saintesses. I wonder if the Bawang Sex Yi Su can defeat Narenryu. Many people trembled and their eyes blazed. As long as the Bawang Sex Yi Su defeated Narenryu and became the champion of the Sacred Martial Assembly, he would be able to cultivate with the Holy Mountain's saints and saintesses. This was an opportunity that everyone dreamed of. Now I announce. Ouyang Yuanfeng looked around and finally fixed his eyes on the two young men on the two golden boulders. He continued with his Yuan Qi voice. The final battle officially begins. Boom! As Ouyang Yuanfeng's voice fell, the entire mountain range suddenly burst into cheers and shouts. Waves of sound converged and soared into the sky. The Holy Mountains Narenryu and the Bawang Sex Yi Su. Who will be the king of heaven's prides this time? I knew that the final battle would be between Narenryu and the Bawang Sex Yi Su. It's true. Amidst the cheers, many people were sure that the final battle would be between the Bawang Sex Yi Su and the Holy Mountain's saint, Narenryu. Although there were some interludes and many heaven's prides had shown amazing true strength, this did not affect the final result. Buzz. Above this vast square, the clanging sound of a bell could be heard echoing through the air. Boom. In the end, the two huge golden boulders formed by the void's sacred martial platform rotated once again. An unprecedented dazzling golden light soared into the sky, and a sacred aura soared into the heavens. The entire huge square rumbled, and the ground shook. This momentum surpassed the previous few rounds. The 5 sects and 3 factions, the Imperial Palace, the Sacred Mountain, and the other major powers all looked at the square with complicated gazes. These experts weren't surprised that Narenryu made it to the final round. It would be strange if Narenryu didn't make it to the final round. However, none of these experts from the large sects had expected that the one who would fight Narenryu for the championship of the Sacred Martial Assembly would actually be Yi Su from the Bawang sect. Rumble, golden light soared into the heavens, and half of the sky was dyed red. The two huge golden boulders rotated, and finally collided with each other while moving, and merged into one huge golden boulder. The golden light dissipated, and this huge golden boulder was like a small mountain, standing on this vast square. Two young figures faced each other from afar. One was the prodigy of the prodigies, the saint of the sacred mountain. One was the black dragon who had emerged from the sacred martial assembly. Ever since he had caught everyone's attention, he had swept away all his opponents with an unbeatable ferocious attitude. He had made it all the way to the final round, where he was going to fight against Narenryu. Countless gazes were fixed on Narenryu in the square. She had a high nose, thin lips, and sword-like eyebrows. Her body was wrapped in a hazy sacred aura, and her eyes were as oppressive as lightning. She gave people the feeling that they would have to submit to her just by looking at her. Many people knew that Narenryu had come for the championship of this sacred martial assembly. She was here to suppress all the prodigies, and was an existence that all the young people in the middle ground could only dream of but not reach. Around the huge golden boulder were the prodigies from various mountain sects who had lost. Mu Yao, Li Qingwei, Lord Shaoxi, and the others all looked up at the two young figures. Looking at the field, Shi Wuqing clenched his fists tightly within the Command Celestial Palace's lineup, appearing very nervous. My boss will definitely win. Su Xiaoshui stood on Merciless West's shoulder, and his clear little eyes looked around. He had absolute confidence in Su Yi. Among the Sacred Mountain's prodigies, Bing Cauldron and the others snorted. Killing intent surged in their eyes. They really didn't expect that Yi Su would have the strength to enter the final round, but they also hoped that Su Yi would be able to make it to the final round. As long as he faced Narenryu, that brat was dead meat. If that brat were to enter the Drive Heavenly Palace at that time, with his talents, he would definitely receive the protection and grooming of the palace. At that time, it wouldn't be long before he would truly become a great enemy of the Sacred Mountain. With the Imperial Palace behind him, he would definitely be a great enemy. And if Yi Su was killed by Narenryu in the Sacred Martial Assembly, it would be considered a violation of some rules. With the Sacred Mountain's status, as long as someone died, it wouldn't be a big deal. Bing Cauldron and the others all knew that Narenryu was proud and arrogant. When Narenryu had planned to kill her, they couldn't say anything about it. But at this moment it was obvious that Su Yi had killed many Sacred Mountain disciples. For the sake of the Sacred Mountain's reputation, Narenryu had already made up her mind to kill him. Yi Su was destined to die. When the golden boulder stood tall, everything returned to calm. When the two young figures stood in the distance, the surrounding cheers and shouts strangely quieted down. The atmosphere also became tense for no reason. The two figures stood in the distance, very far apart. It was only the beginning, but it already made people feel the tension between them, as if an erupting volcano was about to erupt. The onlookers present all knew that at this moment, the Bawang sect's Yi Su against the Sacred Mountain's Narenryu was not only related to the competition for the King of Heaven's pride, but also the grudge between the Bawang sect's Yi Su and the Sacred Mountain. Although no one knew how this grudge was caused, it seemed that Su Yi's defeat of the Sacred Mountain's Ouyang Jinwei was not enough to cause this grudge to run so deep. But there was no doubt that this grudge was as deep as the sea. On the Golden Boulder, Su Yi secretly operated the Origin Supreme technique, refining the Yuan Qi replenishing elixir that he had already taken. Slightly raising his eyes to look at Narenryu in front of him, Su Yi's deep eyes gradually surged with killing intent. Under his ragged robes, a faint red glow could be seen on his skin. Su Yi knew that he could not avoid this battle, and had been looking forward to it. Chapter 829. As for the benefits of being the champion of the sly sacred martial assembly, Su-yi did not care about it from the very beginning. His purpose for participating in the sacred martial assembly was only to fulfill his promise with merciless West. His gaze swept past Narenryu, and finally, Su-yi turned his head slightly, looking in the direction of the heavenly command palace. Looking at merciless West from afar, the corners of his mouth lifted into a proud and confident smile. This brat, doesn't he know that Narenryu is not easy to deal with? Merciless West's nervous expression could not help but smile. He knew that Su-yi was telling him that the top two of the sacred martial assembly had been achieved. That brat's goal was to become the champion of the sacred martial assembly. But Merciless West was worried. He could see that Narenryu was too unfathomable. Until now, she had not used her true strength. Seeing that Su-yi still had the mind to pay attention to other things, Narenryu looked at Su-yi, the light in her eyes becoming more dazzling. The divine aura on her body surged, slowly shaking the void around the golden boulder, giving off an imposing aura that could sweep through all directions. You killed my sacred mountain's disciple, you deserve to die. Now you have nowhere to run. Narenryu opened her mouth. Every word was like a thunderclap, and the wind and clouds surged around her for no reason. The imposing aura on her body began to oppress others, giving off an innate feeling of disdain for heroes. Have some shame, when have I ever escaped? I've killed more than one or two of the so-called extraordinary disciples of the sacred mountain. It's not certain who will die. Only then did Su-yi's gaze return to Narenryu's body, and his words were tit for tat. But Su-yi's mind was focused, and he could feel that this brat was absolutely terrifying. Until now, Narenryu seemed to have not revealed his true peak strength, and Su-yi could not help but pay attention. Hearing Su-yi's words, Narenryu's calm and handsome face trembled slightly. Accompanied by a wave of energy from the surroundings, a hint of coldness filled his eyes, and his voice also became sharper. I have to admit that you have some ability, but if you think that the sacred mountain is something you can look down on, then I can only say that you're a frog at the bottom of the well. The sacred mountain's strength is beyond your imagination. Those disciples you killed are not qualified to represent the sacred mountain. Narenryu was very arrogant, her voice sharp. However, no one felt that Narenryu was being arrogant. This kind of arrogance was only natural for Narenryu. Because he was the sacred mountain's holy son, the one who could truly represent the sacred mountain. Su-yi looked at Narenryu, not paying attention to Narenryu's words, but just noticed the fluctuations around Narenryu's body, and felt an obscure and powerful aura. Su-yi's eyes narrowed, and his heart became even more solemn. Narenryu was indeed worthy of being the sacred mountain's holy son, making all his peers fear him. He was indeed unfathomable and terrifyingly powerful. Su-yi secretly took a deep breath in his heart, and waves of fluctuations slowly spread out from his body. A fiery fighting spirit and killing intent climbed out from the depths of his deep eyes at the same time, and he licked his somewhat dry lips with his tongue. This was a real test, and also a peak battle among his peers, and the first confrontation between him and the sacred mountain. At this moment, Su-yi was somewhat surprised to feel that the Origin's supreme technique in his body was emitting a special kind of fluctuation, as if an extremely obvious fighting spirit was gushing out. This fighting spirit didn't emanate from his body, but from the Origin's supreme technique. It was a fighting spirit that grew stronger when encountering a strong opponent and wanted to fight. Su-yi secretly suppressed the aura of the Origin's supreme technique and concealed it, as he did not want to expose his identity. Su-yi was not afraid of anything happening to himself, but he was worried about bringing disaster to the barbarian city's Su family. If you think that the sacred mountain's disciples I killed are not enough to replace the sacred mountain, then you can replace the sacred mountain. Killing you should be enough. Looking at Narenryu, Sui responded. His voice was not concealed, and it was accompanied by Yuan Qi, deliberately reverberating in the surroundings. Hearing these words, the expressions of the countless onlookers and experts from the various factions changed. As Su Yi's voice fell, everyone could feel that the air above the towering golden boulder had completely solidified. The two young people were both heaven-defying, and they were both peak existences among their peers. Neither of them was a master to be trifled with. When Su Yi's tit-for-tat words fell, the fluctuating sacred aura in Narenryu's body instantly surged, and the Yuan Qi in his body was like a storm, suddenly sweeping out from his extraordinary body. Boom! In an instant, Narenryu's aura was unprecedentedly tyrannical. His strange light green long hair fluttered in the wind, and on his impeccably handsome face, his jade-like dark green eyes were filled with a kind of sharpness that made one's soul tremble. You will pay the price for your arrogance with your life. Narenryu spoke, his eyes fixed on Sui. The aura on his body was monstrous, and the surrounding void was already surging with wind and clouds behind him. It was impossible to discern his cultivation base from his aura, and there was still something hidden. But there was no doubt that the aura Narenryu was currently displaying was absolutely superior to the aura that Su Chern had released with all his strength earlier. Sensing the aura on Narenryu's body, the hearts of the countless experts in the surrounding spectators and the various elders from the various sects and clans were completely and truly trembling. The chosen of the sacred mountain was indeed difficult to shake, and represented an unshakable existence among his peers. My life is very tough. I'm afraid that you're not enough. Sensing the aura emanating from Narenryu's body, a scarlet light abruptly surged within Su Yi's deep eyes. The aura of a peak 9th level origin spirit stage practitioner was completely unleashed from his body, while the Yuan Qi within his Dantian's Yuan Qi ocean was completely unleashed. Su Yi's robes and hair fluttered in the wind. Scarlet light flowed over his body, making him look full and flawless. I'll be able to verify it soon. Narenryu roared as he formed a seal with his hands. A pair of Yuan Qi wings suddenly condensed and flapped behind his back. In an instant, a storm was stirred up as he rose from the ground and pounced towards Su Yi. It was too fast. Narenryu's figure seemed to have turned into a bolt of lightning amidst the surging winds and clouds. In the next instant, he appeared above Su Yi's head. Boom! The void rumbled as divine aura fluctuated. Narenryu directly stomped down on Su Yi. In the sacred martial secret world, Narenryu wanted to use this exact stomp to crush Su Yi. This was a kind of lofty conceit and arrogance. This was his revenge against Su Yi, because only such an attitude could wash away the humiliation he had brought to the sacred mountain. But later, due to the sacred martial secret world, Narenryu's stomp did not succeed, as it was blocked by layers of spatial ripples. Chapter 830. Rumble. The stomp of her foot shook the surrounding void. From Narenryu's foot, endless rays of light gushed out, carrying an incomparable divine aura, rolling towards Su Yi like a meteor. Bang, 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 terrifying energy gales swept out, with Su Yi as the center, unceasing sonic booms resounded in the void. Kill that little bastard, trample him into ashes. Along with Narenryu's attack, many people in the holy mountain gnashed their teeth in anger. Cold intent burst out from the gaps between their teeth. This sacred martial assembly was an unprecedented humiliation to the sacred mountain. In this sacred martial assembly, almost all the disciples of the sacred mountain who came here were killed. Even disciples like Mo Beiming and Chu Zhanghuan were killed. What kind of loss was this to the sacred mountain? Such humiliation and heartache, the best way was to use Narenryu to wash it away. Isu, be careful. Among the thousands of peaks, countless people's hearts trembled at this moment, feeling anxious for Isu. Boom! Naren Ryu directly stomped her foot, fiercely landing on the golden boulder. Divine aura swept out in all directions. The terrifying force caused the golden boulder to tremble. Under many nervous gazes, the energy gales dissipated. From Naren Ryu's foot, there didn't seem to be any blood flowing out. Naren Ryu's foot landed, then suddenly turned to the side. From the side of her body, an ancient aura accompanied by a monstrous aura instantly engulfed the golden boulder. A red light rose like the sun, surging like an erupting volcano, spreading out in all directions like a storm. Roar! In an instant, a ferocious crimson tiger that looked like a living creature came out of nowhere. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, emitting an incomparable pressure. The tiger's sonorous roar was like thunder, deafening to the ears. The ferocious tiger's red light overflowed to the sky, accompanied by an ancient aura accompanied by a terrifying might, shaking the surroundings and intimidating people's souls. It suddenly raised its claws, directly grabbing towards Naren Ryu. So fast, some experts couldn't help but cry out in surprise. Sui had actually dodged Naren Ryu's kick and even launched a counterattack. This kind of speed and experience was not ordinary. This move again? Looks like you're only SOSO. Naren Ryu looked at the shadow of the ferocious tiger. Its aura was rolling out as if it came from the heavens and earth, stirring up the energy of the heavens and earth. However, Naren Ryu did not pay much attention to it. She formed a hand seal, and within the divine aura around her, a hand seal shot out and expanded in the wind. With a loud bang, the two collided. Su Yi's heavenly tiger force was in a deadlock for a moment. The tiger claw was unable to tear the handprint apart. Instead, it was devoured and obliterated by a strange force within the handprint before dissipating. Su Yi's figure appeared. It was unknown when, but a vortex of light had gushed out from his crimson eyes. An ancient aura permeated the air, as though it was capable of suppressing all directions. His hair fluttered in the wind as he rapidly formed hand seals. His yuan qi was like a tide, and his fire-attributed yuan qi rapidly covered his palms. A crimson-red palm imprint condensed and shot out unceasingly. In the blink of an eye, numerous palm prints enveloped Naren Ryu's body. This was the fiery sky net palm of the demon spirit Truth. Su-Yi had slightly concealed his aura. Walala, in a short instant, the numerous palm imprints had enveloped Naren Ryu. The blazing heat from the palm imprints made one's heart tremble. Still not enough. Naren Ryu's face sank. Her foot had missed. At this moment, her attack was actually suppressed by the former. She was very unhappy as she threw out a punch. In front of the fist imprint, there was a series of fist imprints rushing out. Every single fist imprint caused the void to tremble as it dissolved Su Yi's fiery sky net palm. In the end, it collided with Su Yi's palm imprint. Deng deng. The huge impact caused Su Yi's foot to brush against the golden boulder as he retreated. After a dozen steps, he stomped his foot to disperse the impact. Only then did Su Yi stabilize his body. PFFF. At the same time, Su Yi spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, staining the front of his clothes. Su is no match for her. The exchange on the golden boulder was as fast as lightning. Many people hadn't even recovered from their shock when they saw the injuries on Su Yi's body. Instantly there was an uproar. Naren Ryu is indeed the chosen of the sacred mountain. She's not someone that Isu of the Bawang sect can defeat. Those onlookers who supported Naren Ryu immediately raised their arms and cheered. Bawang sect's Isu seems to be a little weak. He's weak in terms of cultivation. Some experts sighed. This Bawang sect's Isu was injured as soon as they exchanged blows. He was at a disadvantage in terms of cultivation. The difference in cultivation between the two was too great. If the Bawang sect's Isu's cultivation was the same as Naren Ryu's, even Naren Ryu wouldn't be able to gain the upper hand. This guy seems to be a little weak. What a pity. Many young figures gathered in the crowd. They were Situ Muyang, Ryugan River, Gongchi, Sakura Asaka, and the others. They were discussing. Su Yi was able to defeat Su Chen, kill Chu Zhanghuan, and sweep through all his enemies. Unfortunately, he was still a little lacking in front of Naren Ryu. In Jutian Palace, Elder Gue, Vice Palace Lord Guanlan, Merciless West, and Green Emperor all frowned. Boss is holding back. He can't go all out. Young handsome Su was also very depressed. His eyes were full of anxiety. Humph. In the Sacred Mountains formation, Kwang Guilan looked at the injured Su Yi on the golden boulder with a smug expression and sneered. Bing Cauldron and the other experts of the Sacred Mountain also relaxed a lot, feeling relieved. Nalan Ryu was Nalan Ryu. She was an incomparable existence among her peers. No matter how valiant Isu was, he had to stop in front of Nalan Ryu. It's only a minor injury. Isu was already injured by Su Chen. Naren Ryu used almost all of his strength, but Isu didn't seem to be using all of his strength either. The outcome is still uncertain. Not far from the Golden Boulder, Lord Shaoxi looked at the stage and murmured. On the Golden Boulder, Nalan Ryu's complexion didn't look too good as he looked at the injured Su Yi. He was well aware of how much strength he had used just now. Originally, he wanted to crush Su Yi with a single kick to wash away the shame of the Holy Mountain. However, after 2 consecutive strikes, Su Yi only suffered some minor injuries. Nalan Ryu's blood was also surging inside his body. He knew how terrifying Su Yi was. It's indeed beyond my expectations. No matter what sect the Bawang sect is, it should be proud of you. Naren Ryu looked at Su Yi. His magnificent eyes narrowed slightly. He knew that if he didn't use his true strength today, he wouldn't be able to crush Su Yi. If this continued, even if he could defeat this kid, it wasn't the result he wanted. He wanted to wash away the shame of Sacred Mountain. You're not weak either. Sacred Mountain should be proud of you. Chapter 831. After exchanging 2 moves, Su Yi could already feel that Naren Ryu was not on the same level as Chu Zhanghuan. I'm not good at talking. Let's end it now. Naren Ryu smiled coldly at Su Yi. Her peculiar light green long hair danced in the air. In the next instant, the light around her body suddenly burst forth. The Yuan Qi wings on her back also expanded and flapped, bringing about a storm. Like a series of afterimages, an incomparable divine aura directly enveloped Su Yi. So fast. At this speed, Su Yi's pupils suddenly constricted. That figure rapidly expanded in his eyes. If it weren't for Su Yi's sharp soul power, he wouldn't have been able to see it clearly. Boom. A palm print shot out from Nalan Ryu's hand from top to bottom. The palm print expanded against the wind. A terrifying storm accompanied by a divine aura surged down like 100,000 mountains, wanting to crush everything into pieces. Rumble. At this moment, from Naren Ryu's body, an unrestrained aura also directly fluctuated. The turbulent Yuan Qi surged, bringing along the sonorous sound of wind and thunder, extremely frightening. Peak of 4th level Yuan Zhen stage. Naren Ryu has reached the peak of LV4 Yuan Zhen stage. See a genuine edition, chapter Q equals J. I'm afraid that his cultivation base is not far from level 5 Yuan Zhen stage. He already has 1 foot in the Yuan Zhen stage. At this moment, when Naren Ryu's aura poured out without holding back, the whole place suddenly went into an uproar. It turned out that Naren Ryu had already reached the peak of the 4th level of Yuan Zhen realm. She even had 1 foot in the 5th level of Yuan Zhen realm. She was much stronger than Su Chen. This was too shocking. We've actually reached this step. When the aura of a peak LV4 Yuan True Realm expert swept out from the Golden Boulder, Even Elder Gue and the other experts of the imperial palace could not help but be shocked. They could not help but stare in awe. This was not an ordinary level of strength. It was too fast. An invisible force enveloped the surrounding void. Although Su Yi had the rising Yao's 100 transformation steps, he was already unable to escape. He raised his hand in a panic. In front of his palm, it was as if countless raging flames had gathered to form a small sea of fire, condensing into a seal. In front of the palm print, an ancient pressure swept out, causing the surrounding air to become terrifyingly hot. The surrounding energy of heaven and earth also became violent, directly colliding with the former. Bang! The two handprints instantly collided, and an astonishing muffled sound of energy exploded. The blazing aura and the divine aura dissipated, and a figure flew out from the torrential wind. Boom! The figure smashed down like a cannonball, causing the golden boulder to tremble. Many people's eyes trembled. The one who had been sent flying was Isu. He hadn't been far from being sent flying out of the golden boulder. Not good! In the Yutian Palace, Merciless West, Green Emperor, and Vice Palace Master Guanlon could not help but tremble violently. Their expressions were extremely solemn. Naren Ryu's figure flapped his wings and floated in the air. The divine aura around him was hazy, and his light blue hair fluttered slightly. His temperament was transcendent, like a descendant of God. Naren Ryu's gaze was fixed on Su Yi, who had fallen to the ground. He seemed to be waiting for something. His arrogance did not allow him to make a move immediately. He wanted to crush him, to wash away the humiliation that Isu had brought to the sacred mountain. He wanted to defeat him in the most direct way possible. Isu has already lost. Bawang Sek's Isu is still no match for Naren Ryu. Naren Ryu is at the peak of the 4th level of Yuanjin realm. He is too powerful. After a brief moment of daze, the crowd began to discuss in low voices. It was an uproar. Many people had already thought that Bawang Sek's Isu had lost. In that case, he might not even be able to get up. Just now, Naren Ryu's attack was so powerful and terrifying. Naren Ryu is too powerful. Under the golden boulder, many defeated sky prides could not help but tremble. Xiaoxi Jun, Qin Yanhuan, and the other sky prides could not help but reveal a look of shock. With Naren Ryu's cultivation base, if it was them, they wouldn't be a match for her at all. Cough. A cough came from Su Yi, who was on the ground. His body trembled as he stood up. Then, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. He can still stand up. Isu stood up. In an instant there were people who cried out in alarm. Their expressions were filled with disbelief. Under Naren Ryu's attacks, Isu from the Overlord sect was actually still able to stand up. Although his injuries were not light, he was still able to stand up. He stood up, he stood up. In the mountains, the spectators who supported Su Yi were very excited. They clenched their fists and felt their hearts tighten. Under the golden boulder, Su Chen looked up. His white robe fluttered slightly. He was still as graceful as ever. His clear eyes flickered as if he was waiting for something. Isu, you must hold on. Yen Lin clenched his fists and whispered to himself. His eyes were filled with nervousness, as if he was even more nervous than his own battle. He is still alive. In the Sacred Mountains lineup, Quang Guilan's eyes were cold as she sneered. Above the golden boulder, a sacred aura fluctuated. Naren Ryu looked at Su Yi, who was getting up. Deep in her magnificent eyes, a dim light flickered. Her face twitched slightly. Su Yi wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. The blood dyed his sleeves red, adding a bloody smell. He took the opportunity to stuff a healing elixir into his mouth. Su Yi's injuries were not light. Fortunately, his physical body was strong. If it was someone with a weaker physical body, it would have been difficult for him to get up. Su-yi raised his head to look at Nalanryu, who was at the peak of the 4th level of Yuanzhen realm. Su-yi's eyes narrowed. It seemed like he only had two choices now. One was to admit defeat, and the other was to reveal his true identity. Only then would he have a chance to fight. He could use the Heavenly Fei ancient scripture and the Origin Supreme technique without holding back. He still had many tricks up his sleeve. However, Su-yi knew that if he revealed his true identity, it would cause a lot of trouble with the Sacred Mountains people and Wang Chuanda. He did not care about it, but he was afraid that it would cause a disaster for the barbarian city's Su family. If he did not reveal his identity and hid his aura, his hands would be tied. He would not be able to compete with Naranryu. Su-yi gritted his teeth. He wanted to test his true identity. He wanted to fight with all his strength. However, the barbarian city's Su family had his grandfather Su Yuntian and their clansmen. They could not compete with the Sacred Mountain. Phew! Chapter 832. You can't even withstand a single blow. If you kneel down and kowtow 3 times, I can let you admit defeat and surrender. How about it? Naranryu stared at Su-yi, his eyes twitching inwardly. His voice was mixed with Yuan Qi as it spread out in all directions. These words seemed like nothing, but in fact, he wanted to block Su-yi's path of retreat. Naranryu looked at Su-yi's reaction. He was really afraid that Yi-Su would surrender. If that was the case, he wouldn't have the chance to continue. Although it might be troublesome if he were to kill the former in a duel, who could do anything to him at that time. But if the former directly surrendered, it would really be difficult for him to continue. Su-yi's eyes darkened. He understood Naranryu's words. This guy looked extraordinary, like a gentleman, but in fact, he was just too arrogant. Even the other disciples of the Holy Mountain disdained to be associated with him. But deep down, he was just as sinister. He wasn't a good person. But at this moment, Su-yi knew that he had no other choice. If he continued to fight, he wouldn't be a match for him. Naranryu's next attack would certainly be fiercer. From his eyes, Su-yi could feel the killing intent. When the time came, as long as there was a chance, Naranryu would not hesitate to kill without any scruples. Of course, Su-yi also understood that if he had the chance, he would kill this guy without any scruples. Su-yi hesitated, his face solemn. Will Yi-Su admit defeat? He's not a match, and he's also seriously injured. He's already an arrow at the end of its flight. Many of the onlookers were discussing among themselves, and the shouting atmosphere had become a lot more tense for no reason. You seem to have been holding back. If it's because you have scruples, you don't have to. I, Gyue, represent the Imperial Palace and will always stand behind little brother. You can fight to your heart's content. Suddenly, such a voice sounded in Su-yi's ears. This was Old Man Gyue's voice. Su-yi looked sideways at the direction of the Imperial Palace's formation, and at Palace Master Gyue, who could be seen in the distance. Their eyes met. Old Man Gyue nodded slightly. Su-yi's hands and feet were tied, and he hadn't truly fought to his heart's content. This didn't escape Old Man Gyue's eyes. In his heart, he guessed that there must be some scruples in this situation. However, Old Man Gyue's heart was also very solemn. Even if Yi-Su were to fight to his heart's content, the gap between peak 9th level Origin Spirit Realm and peak 4th level Yuanzhen Realm was no less than a huge chasm. Naranryu wasn't an ordinary cultivator, but a chosen of the Sacred Mountain. How could Yi-Su cross such a huge gap? Not to mention the central continent, even the heavens prides of the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea wouldn't be able to cross such a gap. Can Yi-Su still fight? Seeing Su-yi's gaze, Vice Palace Master Guan Lan of the Imperial Palace clenched his fists nervously. Not to mention the fact that they had always been secretly competing with the Sacred Mountain, no matter how they looked at it, They naturally hoped that Narenryu would be the one to lose, and not Sui. Merciless West's expression was also very solemn. He naturally knew that Sui was still being restrained and hiding his identity. Merciless West knew a little about Sui's scruples, but he wasn't particularly clear about them. He only knew that Sui had once entered the Shinjian Gate, and something seemed to have happened. After that, he left the Shinjian Gate. Perhaps it was the existence of the Shinjian Gate that made Sui apprehensive. It seems that you've decided to admit defeat and surrender. Why don't you kowtow 3 times and I'll bring you to the sacred mountain. From then on, you'll follow me as a follower. With your talent, you'll be able to shine in the central continent in the future. Narenryu stared at Sui and his cold voice spread out. He also felt that something was amiss. Isu in front of him seemed to have his hands and feet tied, and had not truly gone all out in the battle. Therefore, he was also surprised. He quietly observed the situation, and did not dare to be careless. Phew! Sui withdrew his gaze from the formation of the imperial palace in the distance, and took a deep breath. A faint red light fluctuated in his eyes, and then he looked at the formation of the Shinjian Gate in the distance. Sui looked at the formation of the Shinjian Gate from afar, and fixed his eyes on the thin figure that was extremely uncoordinated with the old face. What's Isu doing? Suddenly, under countless gazes, Sui suddenly knelt on one knee and bowed to the thin, childlike old man in the formation of the Shinjian Gate. What's he doing? He seems to be in the direction of the Shinjian Gate. Isu seems to be bowing to the people of the Shinjian Gate. What's going on? At this moment, the whole place was in an uproar, and countless gazes were in an uproar. Countless gazes followed the direction of Sui's bow and fell on the formation of the Shinjian Gate. In the Shinjian Gate, the expressions of the figures changed, and they were secretly surprised. They could all feel that Isu of the Bawang sect was bowing to someone in the formation of the Shinjian Gate. The Suruga elder was sitting upright. Suddenly, his hands clenched tightly on the armrests of his chair, and the veins on the back of his hands bulged. His eyes narrowed, and light filled them like divine light. The faint wrinkles on his face wriggled, and his whole body trembled inexplicably. At this moment, the Suruga elder clearly felt that the gaze that was looking at him was so familiar. The fierce young man who appeared like a black dragon was bowing to him. That guy seems to be bowing to our Shinjian Gate. In the corner of the crowd, the young disciples of the Shinjian Gate gathered together and looked at the edge of the golden boulder that towered like a mountain. The fierce young man was actually bowing in the direction of the Shinjian Gate. Situ Muyang, Ryugan River, Gongchi, Jianxi, Sakura Asaka, and the others were all puzzled and surprised. In the formation of the Heavenly Palace, the Holy Mountain, and the 5 sects and 3 factions, they were all puzzled when they saw this scene. After bowing, Sui stood up and looked directly at Narenryu, who was floating low in the air. A faint, cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and there were a few streaks of blood on it, which added to his fierceness. He still wants to fight. Isu has no intention of surrendering. The whole place was inexplicably tense, and there was a special atmosphere in the air. There seemed to be a strange silence, like the silence before a volcano erupts. Everyone's gazes subconsciously focused on the ferocious young man at this moment. Under everyone's gaze, Sui stretched out his hand and wiped something on his face. Then, his body wriggled, and there was the sound of bones rubbing against each other. Is he going to fight with all his might? In the formation of the Heavenly Palace, Merciless West's eyes suddenly flashed. Chapter 833. His face was changing, and his body was growing taller. His sturdy figure began to become thinner. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Sui was changing. Then, a young face appeared in front of countless gazes. It was a face that was not fair, but his facial features were extremely well defined. The eyes under his slender eyebrows were deep, and his seemingly thin figure gave people the feeling that he was a towering mountain. Su Yi's body grew taller, and his ragged robe became even more ragged. However, he did not seem to be in a sorry state. Instead, there was a sense of arrogance and agility that could not be concealed. There was a kind of majestic and ethereal temperament that was extraordinary. This temperament was very complicated. It was arrogant and a little evil, as if it came from the bones, from the depths of the soul. What's going on? Why is there another person? The instantaneous change shocked everyone. Isu of the Bawang sect had actually changed into another appearance, one that was even younger. So handsome. Could this be Isu's true appearance? In the crowd, many young women exclaimed, their eyes rippling with light. Although that face was not as handsome as Su Chen's, nor did it have the perfect outline of Narenryu's face, the resolute and arrogant temperament in his face was not overshadowed in the slightest when he stood in front of Narenryu. Instead, it was impossible to ignore his existence. However, at this moment, looking at Su Yi's true appearance, Situ Muyang, Ryugan River, Gong Chi, Sakura Asaka, Jian Shi, and Mu Yao, who was under the golden boulder, were all stunned, as if they had been electrocuted. Within the formation of the Divine Sword sect, all the elders and experts seemed to have been electrocuted. Some elders could not help but jump up and rub their eyes, afraid that they were seeing things. Only Bai Mingshan's expression was as if he had been electrocuted. However, his expression immediately turned ugly, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Kacha in Suruga's palm, the armrest of the chair directly cracked and turned into fine powder. The gaze on his wrinkled old face fiercely trembled, then he raised his head and laughed loudly, mixed with Yuan Qi, resounding through the clouds. The heavens have eyes, ha 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 ha! The Suruga elder laughed. His voice reverberated in the air like thunder, causing pain in everyone's eardrums. Is Isu related to Suruga at Xinjiang Gate? His laughter caused everyone to be shocked. Quite a few experts from the 5 sects and 3 clans were astonished. It's him. It's really Su Yi, junior martial uncle. Su Yi, it's really that guy. Situ Muyang, Ryugan River, Sword 11 and the rest all rubbed their eyes hard. Who else could that young man be if he didn't recognize Su Yi? Suddenly, Sword 11 screamed and immediately stared at Sword 11, asking, "Why are you pinching me? I'm checking if I'm dreaming. Does it hurt?" Situ Muyang asked Sword 11 excitedly. "Do you think it hurts? Why don't you pinch yourself?" Sword 11 fiercely rolled his eyes at Situ Muyang and felt the pain in his arm. At this moment, he was even more certain that the guy in the field was Su Yi without a doubt. "It hurts if I pinch myself," Situ Muyang said to Sword 11, and then he was extremely excited and said loudly, "Haha, this is not a dream. Junior martial uncle is not dead, I knew it. No wonder the aura is so familiar. What Bawang sect Isu, that's junior martial uncle. Isu, Su Yi, this guy, it's really him. No wonder the aura is so familiar." Sakura Asaka, Gong Chi and the rest's eyes lit up. They were pleasantly surprised. They had always felt that the aura was familiar. It turned out that it was really that terrifying guy. How did this guy come out alive? After Ryugan River, Oluo and the rest were shocked and surprised. They were also very curious about how Su Yi came out alive. Isu, Su Yi, it's really that guy. In the Xinjiang Gates lineup, each of the strong elders were happy. Su Yi was actually not dead and was still alive. How could they not be happy? Bawang Sect's Isu, that kind of talent had swept all the way to the top, and now he was in the final round to fight against Narenryu. This was a black dragon, a genius. They were originally thinking that it would be great if he was a disciple of the Xinjiang Gate. Who knew that this Bawang Sect's Isu was Su Yi, a disciple of the Xinjiang Gate? How could they not be excited? At this moment, These strong elders of the Xinjiang Gate had also confirmed that Su Yi was indeed saluting to them. Strictly speaking, he should be saluting to the Suruga elder. He was the disciple of the Suruga elder. This guy is still alive, that's great. Some of the strong elders of the Xinjiang Gate were excited. From the loud laughter of the Suruga elder, they could feel how happy the Suruga elder was at this moment. That laughter was a breath of depression that had been suppressed in his heart. When they first learned that Su Yi had died in the Divine Sword Valley, the Suruga elder didn't say anything. However, from what the Suruga elder had done, everyone knew how important Su Yi was to the Suruga elder. Boss is going to go all out in the battle, good job. Little handsome Su shook his little head on Merciless West's shoulder. He was very happy. So this is his true appearance? Under the golden boulder, Yen Lin was very surprised, and his eyes were filled with curiosity. Su Chen's white robe fluttered, and the shock in his eyes intensified. At this moment, Su Yi's true appearance was even smaller, which proved that Su Yi's talent was even more terrifying. Everyone in the Sacred Mountains lineup was stunned when they saw Su Yi's true appearance. From the beginning, Yi Su of the Bawang sect had been in disguise. Perhaps even the Bawang sect was fake. No wonder no one had heard of the so-called Bawang sect. He seems to be only 16 or 17 years old. An expert from the Sacred Mountain couldn't help but comment in a low voice. Yi Su's true age was no more than 16 or 17 years old, yet she already possessed such cultivation and battle prowess. Just how abnormal was her talent? How can it be him? It's really that kid. Behind Bing Cauldron, Wang Chuanda's eyes were fixed on the tall and thin young man, and his eyes trembled. At this moment, Wang Chuanda felt as if he had seen a ghost. The young man that he had personally thrown down the cliff was actually still alive and had reached this step. You know Yi Su? Wang Chuanda's voice attracted Bing Cauldron's attention. He immediately turned around and asked. This, Wang Chuanda's eyes twitched. When he'd first heard news about Su Yi, he'd only suspected that he had the same name. Worried, he'd personally gone to the Xinjiang Gate to investigate, but to no avail. When he'd returned to the Sacred Mountain, he'd heard that Su Yi really wasn't dead, but that they'd lost contact with him again. After all, if the matter had been exposed back then, the consequences would have been severe. If Su Yi's talent was only average, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But now that Su Yi's talent was so astonishing, if the matter was exposed and the higher-ups wanted to pursue the matter, the consequences would be severe. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.